Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and landed episode number 142. And I love humans, always seeing patterns in things that aren't there. I'm Keith.
Seeing a pattern in my computer. It's doing things I don't want it to do again. I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
My iPad was giving me headaches earlier. I'm finding patterns in my iPad.
Technical difficulties continue to plague us here at Traveling the Vortex.
What do we call the third one? Technical difficulty strike back? No, we're not going to have it.
I checked my mic this week.
It is on.
Switches in the down position.
I can hear
Switches in
you.
the down position.
I can hear you. You don't sound like you're in the distance. At least it did pick you up. Our mics picked you up
yes.
somewhat. So that way we didn't have to re-record that.
Because there's no way we could have captured that twice.
No.
I've got a green jelly bean that says that we're going to get a power outage tonight from the thunder.
Knock on wood.
We cut off midstream. We decided to post what we had.
The power just didn't come back on.
Well, just like Paul McGann's short stint on television, so was our podcast tonight.
Well, the nice thing is we could continue recording in the dark.
That's true. We are on battery power.
We do have battery power.
Anyway, how was your guys' week?
Busy.
Maybe I should start.
You should go first.
Maybe I should start because I didn't do much. As I told you guys off mic, Caitlin is on Dinosaurs. Well, she just finished Dinosaurs on a spaceship.
And it was very fun of her to join
Yeah, I was going to say,
and
the second thing we did this week is she joined us for Friday Night Who, and she had a blast. It was
good.
It was funny because the kids were off Thursday and Friday. So Friday morning I said, hey, would you want to join us for Friday Night Who tonight? And she said, well, what is it? Because she knows I'd do it. She wasn't exactly sure. So, well, we fire up an episode or two of a story of Doctor Who, and we tweet along. Well, she had never used Twitter before, and she was like, well, I don't know. And she was real apprehensive, and I said, well, here's what I'll do. I'll set you up an account. You, at the very least, can watch along and watch what we chat about, and if you feel like chiming in, you can chime in. And once I got her set up on Twitter, and she sat down and she started thinking about it even before the show, she already had what her first thing she was going to say was before we even started. So I was like, so she had a blast. She absolutely had a fun. But I told her, because Mason had a soccer game the next morning, I said, now, if you can't get up in time to get on the road to go to his soccer game, you won't do this again. She got up, and so
very good.
Hopefully she'll join us.
And I see
again
she's tweeted since then.
Oh, has she?
Yeah,
I haven't been
tweeted
watching.
once.
I have not been watching.
I think it's funny that her description is Doctor Who fan, David Tennant is my doctor, but her picture is a Matt Smith.
She changed that tonight, and I forgot to ask her, because I set up her profile, and I set up that, and was going to ask her if she wanted to change either of those, because I had a TARDIS for her earlier.
Yeah.
And so I was going to ask her if she wanted to change her
Oh, she figured out how to change her picture.
Yeah, she told me about that. In fact, she showed me that. So. We didn't do much this weekend. The kids went to a performance that my dad and my sister sang in, and we stayed home and Holly caught up with some Who. Went to La Rocca's for lunch, pizza over here.
The new place? Is that your first one at the new?
No, because, the new location, because I had gone to the Urish location. So, but I liked the pizza the first time we went, but I really liked the pizza this time. So, I don't know. Maybe I was just hungry. And yesterday,
different topics?
We just, we took advantage of the nice weather. We went to the park. We had a picnic. That was it. I didn't have much going on this week. Friday the 13th was Friday the 13th. So.
Yeah. Sean, you want to go next, since we did some similar stuff? Mostly similar stuff?
I had school, work.
You didn't have school, but you did have work.
I had work. Different work.
There was a lot of both of that.
Well, we had the same work.
It's true.
I would be remiss in my duties without mentioning that we have yet another new follower. My friend Alexa from school gave birth to her daughter this week.
Oh, congratulations to Alexa.
And, of course, now I don't have her pulled up. I should have done this. Yes, that's the one. Thank you, Facebook. Baby Kira. What is Gary's name?
It's not Kira. Didn't he just say Baby Kira?
Kira. I was the full thing.
Oh.
I don't get the full name
Oh, okay. Baby Kira was born on Tuesday. So she missed sharing a birthday with Katrina.
Almost. Yeah.
Almost. But yeah, Alexa, I have to give her props, was a trooper because she had gotten to that really swollen stage, and that she was supposed to deliver Monday.
Oh, she didn't go much past then.
No, but it was because Alexa's like string bean. She's so tiny. And then she got really, really, really pregnant, and apparently nothing moved. You know how things are supposed to move and make room, and apparently baby Kira was kicking her fairly repeatedly, like, why is this bone in the way? That's where I need to go. And so they said, we're going to induce. And I'd been teasing her all along, going, you're going to have a C-section, and they're going to cut you open, and you're going to deliver a V baby. That's what's going to happen. And she thought that was absolutely hysterical, and then hit me. So there was 9 months of that. You know, can you imagine what I'd be like if you were pregnant for 9 months? Yeah, I was like that. But then she was a trooper. She actually came to class Monday night.
I think you'd be in shock and awe if I was pregnant for 9 months.
Or me.
You'd never hear the end of it.
You say, you're definitely having a V baby. I don't get around that.
I'd go buy a doll and say, look what I made for you. That's what you're going to have. And there's like 2 listeners out there that are like, I know what a V baby is. Everybody else is scratching their heads going, I don't get it.
Well, some people might have watched the reboot. Too.
They didn't get to the baby, and I hope they didn't watch the reboot because it was
They got to the baby, didn't they? Didn't they get to the baby?
I don't think so. I don't know. We stopped watching after 4 episodes.
Because
boring!
I'm pretty sure in the season 2 they got to the baby.
I don't know.
There was a second season of V?
There was a second season of V. Kid you not?
Yeah.
I only watched 4 episodes because it was boring.
I made it through the first season and couldn't continue.
You remember that scene in Sherlock when Benedict Cumberbatch stands up and goes, bored! 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 He was watching V. They had imported it. He got 4 episodes in. Anyway, so she actually showed up to class and then left to go to the hospital. So it was like late night inducement. But yeah, so congratulations, Alexa.
Yeah. What else you do besides work and school?
It's like you said, I'm done.
Oh, I did
Friendly
more.
birth. I did a lot of work on it.
I have been emotionally invested in this kid for 9 months. All right. Yeah. What else we did? We had Will's bachelor party on Saturday, and of course, Will doesn't do anything easy, so we all had to truck together down to Worlds of Fun, Kansas City, and I got an achievement. Now, nobody's going to admit this but me, so I'll be the one to come out and say it. Everybody has that kind of goal that you're going to go somewhere with a bunch of people, and the guys all go, it would be really cool if we could get so-and-so to throw up. You don't admit that out loud, but everybody thinks about it.
You threw up?
No, I didn't throw up. I made somebody else throw up.
To throw up.
Will had brought a friend of his from class, Nels, N-E-L-S.
Nels.
That's an interesting name. I don't get it.
It's his dad's name, too.
It's his dad's name, apparently, yeah. He kept explaining. It's like Nelson without the on.
Well, there was
just Nels.
There was the guy on Little House on the Prairie. His name was Nels.
Was it really?
Olsen. Yeah. That's what Nellie's named after. Her dad is Nels. Nels Olsen.
I didn't watch a whole lot of Little House.
What?
I'm sorry, it was on before I was born.
No, it was not. It was not. I'm just slightly older than... No, he's lying. Because I watched it as a kid and it was on TV.
In reruns?
No, on primetime.
I don't get to throw out old guy jokes very often. That was a dig, I'm sorry. Anyway, so Nels came along and
I was watching it when I was 1 in Shauna's room.
Yeah, probably. that worked. The math works. He had one of those old black and white sets with a magnifying glass over the front of it.
You remember, you've at least seen it, right? Olsen Mercantile. He was the one that owned the store. His wife, Harriet, was this, like, just...
I remember Harriet.
B-word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was his name.
Yeah.
Honestly, didn't.
It was
pretty much
my boy, and I can't remember his name.
Here's a rabbit hole to go down. Pretty much my remembrances of Little House on the Prairie is pretty much if it didn't happen to Michael Landon and the immediate family, I didn't care.
Oh.
It was not a show.
That's too bad. They had a lot of great characters.
I full props for everything else. Yeah, when it was on as a kid, I didn't.
It's one of the best finales of a series ever. One of my favorite finales of a series ever.
I think
they were getting ready to. So they were going to buy. They were buying everybody out of the town. There was some big conglomerate came in, and they were basically they were forcing them to sell their homes and sell the city. And so what they do? They blew it up. They blew the entire town up. They just one at a time. Each one of them set up their dynamite. And they just the ending of the show is them going through, boom, just blowing it. They want it, they can have it. Boom, blew all their stuff up. It was so cool. It was just the most awesome ending to a series I'd ever seen in my life. They just blew the town up. Sorry.
Wow. I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah. I was blown away by that premise. I was like, wow, literally. I was just like, and I was quite young at the time. I must have been probably grade school when it ended, or maybe even junior high.
I bet Joss Whedon was a fan of Little House on the Prairie. That explains a lot.
I want to say he's referenced
you
it
can
before,
have the town,
actually.
we're just going to blow it up. They blew their town up.
Huh.
Blew all the buildings up and everything.
Anyway, Nels had come along, and
we were talking about Nels.
he had made the comment that, he doesn't really do it. I was like, well, what do you... He says, I don't like going in circles. I was like, oh, okay, I don't like going in circles either. So you and I, we're simpatico. You hang with me, kid. I'll take care of you. I was like, all right. So I rode the Viking Voyager, and... Ooh. When you put four... There was a crack of thunder and a bolt of lightning. One by one, you all liked. When you put four guys in a boat... You know the Viking Voyager. It's a little log, right? The little flim thing. When you put four guys our size in the boat, we rode really low in the water.
I got so wet.
At the bottom.
Yes. All the way
Well,
down.
at least Sean and Adam were in the boat together.
Oh, gosh.
We tried that on Fear the Now. It didn't work. But
It's hard to drag the bottom of your mouth.
But yes, we dragged all the way through that. Rode that, no problem. Got wet. Okay, fun. And then it's like, well, let's ride Spinning Dragons. And he's kind of looking at this thing like, I don't know, but it's going in a circle. And it's like, yeah, but it's a roller coaster, so it's okay. All right. So we rode that, and he was fine. We're like, okay, cool. Well, we're here. Let's do Patriot. And for those of you that are not from here, Patriot, I didn't take a picture of this one. Patriot is this kind of suspended coaster where you sit and your feet dangle underneath the track. It's ahead of you, or above you. And he's kind of, I don't know about this, I don't know about this, I don't know about this, I don't know about this. I was like, dude, it's fine. You'll be all right. It's very smooth.
He was feeling a little nauseous after Spinning Dragons, too. He just didn't really...
Yeah, he didn't vocalize it. But
well, he vocalized it just to the wrong people who didn't. Then those people who didn't hear the vocalization encouraged him to go on the Patriot.
Well, and I'm trying to pump it up, and it's like, do it once. If you don't like it, you never have to do it again. That's kind of the philosophy of life, right? Don't. So we're going up there, and it's I'm giving him the pep talk. It's the newest ride in the park, relatively speaking. It's $14 million invested in it. It's very smooth, and it's steel, and it's got all this kind of great stuff for it. The one it replaced, you wouldn't want to ride that one, but this one's a good deal. So he's like, all right, I'll ride it. And then I turned around and I said, you realize that we're only setting you up so that we can have a very stern talking to you after the ride about how easily your morals were corrupted because you didn't really want to ride this, and we talked you into it. So now we're going to talk you into all kinds of stuff, and I hope you're ashamed of yourself. And he laughed. So we ride the thing, and we're having a great time, and loop-de-loops and spinning upside down and all the stuff that the Patriot does. And I looked over, and there was me and then Patrick, and then Nels was on the end. And I looked over as we pulled into the station, and he is jelly bean green. I mean, gills just green, like Yoda green. And I went, oh my God, we killed him. So then there's this...
Have you ridden it, Glenn?
I've never ridden the Patriot.
There's a corkscrew at the end.
Well, I don't think technically it's... Because corkscrew kind of implies this motion, and it's not. It's just a twist in the track that...
Well, you go from upside... I don't
remember that in Roller Coaster Tycoon.
I do think you do a 360.
Well, yeah, you do, but it's
if you do one 360
it's not a loop
in a tight turn,
it's not a loop because it's a corkscrew.
Right, because the traditional corkscrew loop is the one where you go like this, and it's elongated like a spring.
Corkscrew is where the track is twisted. That's corkscrew.
Well, then what is this one? I always thought that was the corkscrew.
A stretched corkscrew?
Yeah, maybe.
A Roller Coaster Tycoon, that was the corkscrew. This was a twist, but whatever. It does this.
I think they've updated since then.
You lay off me.
I seem to remember in Roller Coaster Tycoon that this was the corkscrew, and this was, I don't remember what they called that.
Well, because you had to build it in sections, and this was a half corkscrew, and this was the other half of the corkscrew.
You're right.
But I thought this was just a twist. Anyway, it does a twist.
So you can build it in half.
And so it's not just that it was, the upside down loop I think he was okay with, but the twist was definitely
I think
not.
that was kind of, he'd have survived
He'd have survived had it not done that.
Yes.
And he is green. So we pull into the station, and the floor comes up, and he's finally getting, and we're going in through the mouth, or in through the nose, out through the mouth. You'll be fine, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. The floor comes up, he's got the seatbelt off before the thing comes up, and he is out. He's just gone. So we go down, and we're waiting at the foot of the stairs, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, we're waiting, and he comes down. And we're like, oh, dude, you okay? Oh. It's like, what happened? He said, I threw up all over the side of the building.
Oh, no.
And there it is. Just, he decorated the entire wall of this building.
Oh.
And I have never felt so bad. And like I said, there's this thing where he's kind of like, you know, there's a part of you that's like, yay, we made somebody throw up.
It is a bachelor party after all.
We had so much fun. I felt so miserable. We you know, and from the rest of the day, I mean, his day is shot. All he can do is like,
you don't want to ride anything after that.
I don't want to ride anything. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to eat anything. It's like, can I get you something? You want to walk with me? We'll go look and find some Dramamine or go to the first aid. Yeah, okay. So, you know, we went and did that while the gang went off and did some other stuff. I felt so miserable under that.
And really, he was in pretty good sports about the whole
he
thing.
Was. He was a great sport. And he kept saying, you guys seem like a lot of fun. I'd like to come down and hang out with you. And I looked at Patrick and I went, wow, he's a glutton for punishment.
He was a really nice guy.
Yeah,
I would like to hang out with him
on
again.
Facebook. I don't
Yeah, so did I.
But it was just, you know, then, you know, we did a couple more things and he's just not going to, you know, and so it was like go-karts. And I was like, you like go-karts? They stay on the ground. You can do it. And he says, I'm not doing go-karts right now. He says, I'll watch you do it. I love go-karts, but I'm not doing it right now.
Go-karts was very shortly after.
Yeah, that's true, too. So he's sitting there watching as we go around on the go-karts, and we got back over to him, and I'm looking at him.
Which and he had already, we were all kind of, he'd gone to the bathroom, and then everyone was kind of discussing doing go-karts because it's extra $5. And he had already gone off and thrown up again.
Yeah, he had gone off and thrown up again. So we get off the go-karts, and they're deciding what to do next, and I look over at him, and from across the go-karts in the background, you can see the hind end of the Patriot looming in the background. And the car went by and did a whoa, and he threw up again.
Oh, I wasn't there for that part.
He can't even look at the damn coaster. And just like, oh, jeez. So then we went to eat, and he just kind of laid on the
and then stayed there
on the table while the rest of us ate. Was like, "Can we get you? I'm staying here. Go have a good time." I was like, "Are you sure?" Yeah. And he was there for like 5 hours.
Aww.
He just sat there and couldn't move. And eventually, he caught up to us, and he ate something, and he was
ambulatory.
Yeah, he was in much better spirits at the But even when we were walking, when we walked back to get Dramamine, and he'd taken that, and talked to the people at the first aid center who were basically like, well, the best thing you can do is get back out there because they don't want to deal with it. And when you fall down, you must get back up on the skis and keep going, So we were walking back across, and we walked in front of the ripcord, which is the big, swing where they winch you up and then they let go of you. And these people went screaming overhead. And he kind of looked up at them and then had to stop and looked at the ground. Like, oh, like, are you, dude? Don't throw up the Dramamine. Wow. You just got the Dramamine.
He was a rough day.
He got it hard, and I felt so bad.
Did he go to dinner and everything, or did he bail after they got back to town?
I don't know after they got back to town what the plan was, because we left a little early.
Yeah.
So I told that story. You could tell the rest of the day.
Well, it was loads of fun. It was a lot of fun. Aside from that,
looked like you guys are having fun.
The ironic thing is we had the perfect number until that. We had 8 people. Perfect number for rides. So
everybody rides with somebody.
Then we were down one.
Luckily, down, Ethan. Man down.
There were some rides Sean wouldn't ride. There were some rides Adam wouldn't ride. So overall, it pretty much worked out 6 and 6. Or 6 people riding each ride usually.
Well, cool.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Then we came back to town, and Sean called it a night. I went and had dinner with my mom for her birthday, and then we went and saw Now You See Me at the Cheap Theater.
Oh, what'd you think?
I really liked it. It was really good. It was really good. I was pleasantly surprised. I found it very enjoyable. I'm not going to say too much about it.
Did you figure out who done it?
I didn't until they revealed it. I was I felt up until that scene on the bridge where he's talking to the woman.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like a twist to be a twist.
Yeah.
And then they fixed it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, it's good. So I would highly recommend it. Sarah really, really liked it and wants to own it now. So that's how good it is.
Oh.
Today we took the nephew to Kansas City.
Oh, that's right, you did that.
Yeah.
I forgot, your weekend's not over yet.
My weekend's not over. Because you work today.
I work today.
To the Legoland Discovery Center because they were having Star Wars Day.
Which I told you about.
Yes, you did. Which we had heard about the Legoland Discovery Center. We just didn't know about the Star Wars Day. And it was really cool. So, first up, you have to have a kid to get in. Sean was very bummed about that.
That is the weirdest rule anywhere.
You know, it's a kid. It's
no admittance without child.
It's geared towards children.
What?
It's not that in today's day and age. Unfortunately, it's not that surprising.
Does it keep the creepers out?
Yeah, you have to have a kid to get in.
Well, why wouldn't you just go nab a kid and then get into the?
Well, I don't know. Then you'd already have the kid. Why would you go creepy?
You'd have to go stalk a kid in order to get into a place where you could stalk the kid. I guess I can see the logic of that, but. I was disappointed. It was like, must have kid to enter? Are you kidding me?
I like the irony here of how, for years, kids have tried to find grown-ups to go with them to movies, R-rated movies, and buy alcohol for them and do all this different stuff to them, and now the roles are reversed. We have to find kids to go to Legoland.
They do occasionally have adult nights, but I don't know if it'd be as much.
Adult Swim, everybody out of the pool.
But you can also pay a little extra for an activity pack. It comes with a little lanyard.
Oh, cool.
And you go around to each station because there's like a little map. And you get stamps. It ripped.
You put one of those little circle protectors on.
And then once you get all the stamps, depending on the day, you get one of these cool little thingies to put on your lanyard.
Oh, cool.
Is it just like a stamp on there? That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah. And then it has other stuff for kids to do too. Like... It has the Lego story. Like, so it starts in, like, the factory, and then you go... Then you continue. You might go... Oh, and yeah, then you continue, and you go through kind of like a little wooded type area. And then you ride a ride.
Really?
There are 2 rides in this place. And it's one of those rides...
Are they 4D motion simulators?
Do what?
Are they 4D motion simulators?
No, there's a movie theater.
There is a movie theater.
So the 4D experience. Which apparently occasionally does... I don't know what the character's name is now. It occasionally does Chimia. And it occasionally does something else. The one we saw. I don't know what the character's name was. There's a bunch of little Lego figures running around. But you go through and then... It's one of those riding ones where you shoot stuff.
Oh, cool.
And the guns are actually shaped like Lego guns.
Fun.
Like the muzzle loader type guns, and so you're saving this princess and shooting targets and shoot screens, big screens that you have to shoot stuff, and you get scores, and then they take your picture during it.
That sounds cool.
But yeah, it's really... We rode that like 4 times. And then you go in, and then there's like a Duplo area, and let's see what else is there.
Let's go find a kid.
There's...
I've got 2. Do you need to borrow one?
Yeah.
There's a big...
You've got a granddaughter.
Well, she's a little too young for it still.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't say.
Well, that's true.
You just need a kid. He's just going to enjoy it himself. He didn't care if his kid enjoys it.
There's like a little racetrack place where you can build cars. Like it's a Discovery Center, and then they have like big play area like Going Bonkers has, where it's like Jungle Gym type stuff. Mm-hmm. And then the 4D theater, so that you get the 3D glasses and squirts water in your face. And and they made it snow inside the room at one point, which was pretty cool. Audie was really... I think he really enjoyed the movie. I think he was mad because it ended.
Oh.
He didn't like that it ended, and it kind of ended abruptly, so he wasn't very happy about that. But he had a lot of fun, and you could tell he was kind of getting tired. Then they also have one of those carnival-type rides that you go around in a circle, and you go up and down.
Sorry.
I don't know how to...
You just kind of struck me funny. Yeah,
but
like one of those carnival rides.
Ooh. Where you go around in a circle.
Where it's kind of the ones where it's targeted towards younger kids, but you go up and down.
Oh, like a bouncy roo.
Yeah, kind of. The cool thing about this is...
Or Snoopy versus the Red Baron.
Your up and down is determined by you.
We have both.
There's bicycle pedals.
We have both, Sean.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's bicycle pedals, and depending on how much you pedal, either you go up or you go down.
Oh, okay.
It pushes hydraulic fluid into the thing for you to do it. And it's like... It's one adult and 1 kid per little cart.
Oh.
So if you don't have another kid with you, you got to ride by yourself. Sarah and I were going to ride together. He's like, nope, only one adult. So that was really cool. And then...
So it was really cool. So you did it, and Sarah didn't get to ride it.
No, we both did it. We both did it.
They just had to ride by themselves.
Well, her brother went with us, too.
Oh.
So, yeah.
He's
we rode that
kid.
twice. Well, we had 3 adults to 1 kid.
You just have to have a kid.
You just have to have
Your
one.
group has to have 1 kid.
Right, but you just said that in order to get on the ride, you and a kid.
You either rode you and a kid or by yourself. Adults could only be 1 adult per car. But each car could have 1 kid, too.
I got it now.
Okay. And there was even like there's a girls section.
So Arnie and his dad rode together, and then Sarah and Keith were going to ride together, but they couldn't because you could only do 1 adult per car.
Right. There was a girls section that had karaoke.
Carnival ride.
There's
It was in a circle.
Master Builders section where you can go and take a class.
More intricate.
Yeah,
building.
you learn how to build something, then you could keep it for $5.
Ooh.
We thought he was a little too young for that, so we didn't do that.
Caitlin would so do that, though.
Yeah,
God, she would love that.
We got there probably a little around noon and left about 2.
How much are tickets?
I don't remember. Hold on, let me look. I can look real quick.
I read somewhere they're like nearly $60 a piece.
No, they're not that.
Okay.
We bought 4 tickets for $75.
Oh, total?
Yeah.
Okay, so 25 a piece.
Yeah, about.
Bodies would have been cheaper, though.
Yeah, it would have been cheaper.
That's not bad.
No, yeah.
And they have other, like, I should mention the Star Wars aspect of it. They have,
Although you said it was kind of lame.
Yeah, there was also a big section where it's like, I don't know, it's Lego stuff built. And you go through and you just see this
kind
cool...
of museum-ish.
Yeah, they have parts of Kansas City built, like the Plaza Crown Center.
See, I think that would be cool.
Where it is really cool. And they intermix Star Wars stuff in it, which I got the impression it's there all the time. I don't know if it is, but like there's a racetrack, and there's the speeder bikes, and there are buttons you can push to make the speeder bikes go. So it's pretty cool. And then there was a scavenger hunt. There's like a normal scavenger hunt, but because it was Star Wars, they made a special Star Wars scavenger hunt. Who's on top of this, blah, 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 and then you submitted it to possibly win something. So we did that too. But there was a big mural of Yoda made out of Lego pieces. And then they had a giant Clone Wars Yoda that was built out of Lego that people could help build with, or help build it. By the time we got there, or got around to it, it was already fully built, so we didn't get to take part. But there were also people, I'm assuming from the 501st, dressed up in costume. There was a stormtrooper, scout trooper, random Sith, Boba Fett, an Anakin, and an Obi-Wan. So it was
knowing George Lucas, that could actually be the guy's name. Random Sith.
There was like 5 or so.
Sean and I got to see a 20-foot Yoda.
Ooh.
We got to watch him build it all weekend.
Oh, that's cool.
Celebration 3.
I don't know if it was...
They were building.
Yeah, they were building. I forgot.
We didn't think they were going to get it done before we got in there, and we went in there. I think they were still working on the lightsaber, but they had the rest of it all.
I'd forgotten about that.
In fact, they didn't think they were going to get it done because they were soliciting people to come by and just put some bricks together while you were there. Oh. And so it was kind of an interactive thing. The whole community could come in and put bricks together, and then they were going to have this thing done by the end. And I think it was the second day we were there, maybe the third day we were there, and it was like not even half done, and we were like, they're not going to make it. And then we went in there the last day before we left, and they had got all of it done except for, I think they still had some lightsaber left.
That's cool. I didn't think the Yoda was as cool as like the one in FAO Shorts in New York with the R2.
Yeah.
It wasn't that cool, but it was cool. And they have other stuff built up. Tickets are $16 per adult, $13 per child.
Oh, okay.
So then I think the activity books are an extra $4 or something.
But worthwhile.
Yeah, very, very cool. I think that was pretty much it. And then went to dinner for Mel's birthday. But
where'd you guys go for dinner?
Paisanos,
That's what you're talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think I'd go back to the Legoland Center. They have other, apparently...
Well, they have special weekend events.
Yeah, weekend events, all planned out through the year.
I just happened to see that this weekend was Star Wars. So.
They did one over the May 4th weekend for Star Wars.
Ah, makes sense.
Yeah. And then Brick or Treat is coming up.
Although you would have boycotted that if you don't like
that. Holly Holidays also for the rest of the year. So I don't know if we'll go back this year. We might go back next year. And I think Audie will get more out of it as he gets older, since he is only 4. Yeah, but I think your kids would absolutely love it. And Sarah and I were like, we so would have loved this as when we were kids. And it's a lot of fun. It's more fun if you have a kid that will enjoy it. Seeing the activities that there are, I wouldn't have that much fun at an adults-only event, I don't think. Because, I mean, we're too big to go in the Jumbo Gym area. I mean, there's the race cars, the carnival thing, and the shooter thing, and random Lego building, but that would be it.
One of the, when Mel and I were going, okay, it's date time, and we'll just go do something. We went to Science City, which is across from where this is at Crown Center in Union Station.
Oh,
and it's
across the other side.
It's across the other side
because
it's actually in Union Station,
because this is across from. Because it's all Crown Center, but it's across the street from the main part of Crown Center.
Right.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, and there's an aquarium there, too, apparently.
Oh, I didn't
So is it on the fountain side then?
Yeah, it's on the fountain side with the ice rink.
Gotcha.
And apparently it's only like a year old because, like...
Yeah, because Union Station's behind on the other side of Crown Center.
Yeah. Weekends in April was the first birthday celebration, so it's
you
coming
can
up
see
on
it
2
from
years.
there. But I mean, it's literally 2 city blocks down to there.
Well,
but you could
not
see it
really,
from the corner.
but it's
like
you
a
just
block
take
and a
you take the
half away.
link and you cross over that funny street.
When I think of across the way from
Well, you can walk
here is more like
through
the
other
Crayola,
skywalk, but
yeah,
is across the street from where this
Right,
is.
right.
But this is on the other side.
Gotcha.
Okay, it would be 2 city blocks from where Legoland is.
Yes,
at, but
that's
it's
what
really
I'm saying.
Only one
It's
block
down
from
one this
Crown
way
Center.
and down this
Okay,
way.
Oh,
Right,
yeah. It's because Crown Center takes 2 blocks.
Yeah. Anyway, so we went.
Not that anyone knows what we're talking about.
No, we went and did Science City, and I kind of had that. Oh man, I don't know if this is going to be because it's just the 2 of us in here, and it's very much geared for kids. Sesame Street, Electric Company Learning kind of stuff. And man, we had a blast. Mel crawled through tunnels, and I climbed up on things. And the only thing we couldn't do is there's a high wire bike because they balance it for kids, and it's like, oh, I want to do the high wire bike. So we, I don't know. Maybe we'll steal a child and go down to this thing.
Or
here, you play in the Lego pit. We'll be back.
Children 2 and under get in free. So you got a year to take Katrina, and she'll get in for free.
Oh, yeah, it's true, because she just turned 2.
So, I mean, you could still take her. I mean,
I just don't know that, yeah.
I don't know. She would, Katrina wouldn't appreciate it. And there was a lot of us, we helped him and we played with him, but there was a lot of, at least 30 minutes or so of us just kind of standing around while he did his thing.
Did his stuff, yeah.
Gotcha. See, that's why I wouldn't take her to an amusement park. There's a part of me that thinks that I would probably enjoy Worlds of Fun more if there was a child.
We didn't take Mason to Worlds of Fun until last year.
Yeah.
I still thought he was a little too young. In fact, he only did the stuff in Camp Snoopy and then a couple of other things.
Barely big enough to do anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this year he can do.
He's getting a lot taller now. Yeah,
he can do a lot of the taxis and things like that because he couldn't even drive. Although he did, he couldn't drive the taxis last time he was there, even with an adult sitting there.
Oh,
but he did.
Was he big enough for bumper cars to drive?
He did. He did bumper cars by himself, but he couldn't figure out how to back them up. So he'd get stuck, and then he'd start crying because everybody's bumping into him. And he couldn't go anywhere.
That was the other. Mel and I watched Cloak and Dagger because she just out of the blue. I had this dream about this movie where this guy comes out of the fire and the kid and he's imaginary and he thinks he's a spy. I've never seen this before. But
You've never seen Cloak and Dagger?
Well, I have now. I had not at the time.
You had
I
not
watched
seen
it this
before?
week.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I know.
Weren't you an Atari kid?
Yeah.
And you'd never seen
I had never seen Cloak and Dagger.
Dabney Coleman and
Elliot Thomas.
Can't remember.
Henry Thomas.
Henry Thomas. I never can remember his name.
But so...
and the Atari cartridge. Actually, it's not actually an Atari cartridge, but Atari adopted the film.
False advertising.
Yeah.
But... yeah, so she was talking about this. I have never seen it before, but I went, Cloak and Dagger.
Have you ever seen Cloak and Dagger? It's a little old for you. You'd have been very young, or maybe not even around when it
was
first
84.
came out. Yeah, so you've been real young.
That doesn't mean anything.
Well.
But, so we found it at work and bought it, and she made me watch it. And really, I really enjoyed it. It's dated, but it was a lot of fun. It's goofy 80s. And what's funny, you saying that he couldn't drive, is there's a scene where he... Elliot, what's his name? Henry Thomas, where he steals the guy's car, and so he's driving, but of course he's a kid driving. And it's like, I'm sorry, I think kids driving cars in movies is the funniest thing. I want more kids driving cars in movies because it's just absolutely hysterical. And
but they don't do it anymore. You know why?
Because it's not
They're
safe.
afraid kids are going to try to drive a car.
This was the first one I'd ever seen where he's behind the wheel. And I don't know how. I mean, he's 2 years older than he was in E.T., so he's not terribly old, but he's behind the wheel. And he does this. He peeks up over the wheel and looks to where he's going, and then he has to slouch all the way down to the seat in order to be able to stamp on the gas. And he's in a parking garage, so it's nothing but this carnage of broken glass and crunched, fenders and bumpers and things. And he hits something, and then he looks back up over the thing, and then he's like, and he, and just trying to. And oh my God, I laughed so hard during this thing. Because it was, like I said, normally the kids kind of sort of have something worked out where they can, he's all the way up or all the way down in this car.
I realize we've prattled on for more than an hour on what we did this week. It's a good thing the retrospective is short.
Anything else from this week?
No, that was it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So the only other thing I did was caught up on Grimm. Up to date now, and started season 4 of West Wing. So I fell off on that.
Nobody cares.
And reading my book.
All right.
How's your book coming?
I'm
He'll
have it.
I have 150 pages left.
150 pages left.
So
and how's your book coming?
I'm on
Pages
chapter 3, but there's only 295 pages, so I'll be golden. I think I'm on page 75 or 76, something like that. They're long chapters too, which I don't normally like.
Chapters aren't that long.
I don't normally like in a book because I kind of like that. Hey, read 4 pages. Oh, and another chapter. It really makes it feel like the book's going along.
Like you feel like you're accomplishing
or you
something.
can take a break easier.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's the best part about it. But this time, it's like I'm just on chapter 3, and then I look at the book and I'm like, oh, well, I'm almost a quarter of the way through the book now. So,
well, let's move on to news.
Okay.
Doctor Who was
news.
recognized at the TV Choice Awards. Was named the best drama series for the 4th year running. Beat out Call the Midwife, Downton Abbey, and Waterloo Road. It also received an Outstanding Achievement Award in recognition of reaching its 50th anniversary, with Peter Davison taking the stage to present Stephen Moffat with the award, who said, "I'm receiving an award about Doctor Who from Doctor Who while Doctor Who is busy filming in Cardiff." And they also showed a montage of clips from 5 decades. However, Best Actor went to David Tennant instead of Matt Smith for David Tennant's role on Broadchurch.
Oh.
And Miranda Hart beat out Jenna Coleman for Best Actress. Miranda Hart from Call the Midwife.
Oh.
All right. But yay, more awards.
This week we got a peek at the promotional image and poster for the 50th anniversary special, which now has a name. It seems like we're being lazy.
What is it?
It's really clever because I think it fits into that being the actual 50th anniversary day, but it's called Day of the Doctor, which.
We're being lazy.
Yeah, and that's what it feels like. But when you peel back all the layers and you go, this is the Day of the Doctor, the 50th anniversary of the first airing of Doctor Who, it works. So I'm forgiving. The Day of the Doctor, the name of the Doctor, an unearthly child. See the
death of the Doctor.
The death of the Doctor. Yeah, that's right. Death of the Doctor. The Doctor's wife. The Doctor's daughter.
Vincent and the Doctor.
Vincent and the Doctor. Doctor Who and the Silurians. Oh, wait.
I knew you were going to do it. I knew. I was waiting for it.
What do you guys think about the poster?
The poster's
It's
cool.
pretty sharp.
That's pretty cool.
Did you look really closely at the stuff around John
I
Hurt?
did, yeah.
What do we think of that door in the background?
Looks like the TARDIS door.
Yeah. There's a lot of speculation online now that the 50th is where they're going to resolve that
I'm
plot line.
hopeful.
The explosion.
Yes.
The exploding. Why the?
Because it does look like an explosion, too, in the
I
picture.
don't think so. I think he'll wrap that up in a Christmas special.
You think so?
Yeah.
And do you think we're getting the inclusion of Bad
Which will be
Wolf
called
just
the
because
Christmas
it's
of
Rose?
the Doctor.
I think so,
And
especially
that's
since
just a
there's
reference
Daleks.
to the factors being Rose.
Yeah,
Rose,
Rose
there.
and Daleks. Yeah, I think that's what that is.
So not so much that it will play a role in the story.
No, I think it will, but I don't think it'll be some big grand tie-in.
Oh, we fixed it.
I think it'll be more of a I don't know.
Nod.
Yeah, nod. Yeah.
BBC has also announced other stuff they're doing on the 23rd, including on BBC Two, a special featuring Professor Brian Cox taking an audience of celebrity guests and members on the public on a journey of the wonderful universe of Doctor Who, and drawing on theories and kind of the science of Doctor Who, kind of like what Star Trek has done before. Also, there's going to be a special on the Culture Show, called You, Me, and Doctor Who, which they had talked about previously. I don't think we've reported on it, but other people had it. And then BBC Two will air An Adventure in Space and Time.
What's that?
That's just a little docudrama.
It's a little docudrama they're working on.
Yeah, nothing major.
Nothing major.
We got a length though. It's 90 minutes.
Yes, that's right.
And we got a length of the 50th anniversary, the Day of the Doctor, is 75 minutes.
Yeah.
So not quite feature length.
No, 70 is feature.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Is
70
TV?
is considered feature length.
Oh, I did not know that.
But the 50th is 75.
Yes.
All right.
There's also going to be...
He was saying it's not quite feature, and I'm saying it is. It's actually more than. So.
I did not know that.
Yep. That's what they classify as feature length, 70 or more.
BBC 4 possibly will air The Unearthly Child, but
You
it's
say
unconfirmed.
Possibly, yeah, but and I didn't.
They had to pull it.
Okay, that's what it was, because I saw on BBC's website...
Pending the resolution... afterwards they had to update and say, pending the resolutions of issues with one of the episodes, they're working on it. So, pretty much expected.
What could be the issue of one of the episodes?
They didn't say.
Music rights?
Was there any in that one? I know The Chase has the Beatles in it.
John Smith and the Quarrymen?
I think that fixes itself.
Somebody had to write that jazz tune.
Oh, but anyway, lots of stuff.
Yeah, and there's going to be stuff
on
on CBBC, including a Blue Peter special and other BBC Three stuff. And
then we saw that Watch over in the UK is now secured the rights to play the revisited and classic episodes. Didn't I read that as well?
Was that
in combination with the
ones that aired?
The ones that aired.
The ones that it'll be the same as the revisiteds on BBC America. But that's cool because it'll finally give the
UK viewers
the opportunity to see them.
Yay. And then there was a little announcement by a lot of news media, news media.
I like media.
Recently about a certain somebody being in the 50th anniversary.
Yeah. According to Female First, they're reporting that Peter Davison will appear in the special. However, if you go directly to the quotes, he says, "I'm making an appearance somewhere over that period of time, but I can't reveal in what." He also says, "I can't reveal anything specific about it. I'm not allowed to. It's a big year for the show, and we're all doing our bit for it. Trust me."
What brought this up is the fact that he mentioned that he owns a copy of the script, The Day of the Doctor. That's what brought it up. And then he made the quote, "I'm making an appearance somewhere over that period of time, but I can't reveal in what." And I'm going to call foul on the fact that everybody's jumped all over this, and Female First especially, saying that he's in the 50th, because he does not explicitly say he's in the 50th anniversary special. I think from the comment that he makes is he's revealed that he's doing something for the 50th, and that everybody is doing their bit for it.
And
that does not mean he is in the 50th. And everybody has run with this, saying that the Fifth Doctor's in the 50th or Peter Davison's in the 50th.
They're even getting it from Bang Showbiz, whatever that is.
Yeah, that is wrong. Absolutely wrong. He has not said that he is in the 50th anniversary.
Well, that doesn't make a great headline.
No, it doesn't. But I'm actually disappointed in a lot of these news outlets that are doing it that way, and nobody's called foul. Actually, there has been a few that have now dissected this a little more,
and taken it down. Yeah,
but in fact, I think that was on Doctor Who News this last few days, and they've pulled the story. So I don't know if they've pulled it to confirm it, or because it's confirmed that he said these things, but people are reading too much into the comment.
Something that I
By the way, Phil, I saw that you had brought that up on Facebook as well. So
something that I think is really cool here is one of the commenters on their website says, as other commenters have noted, Davidson didn't say he would be in the episode itself, as in the actual Day of the Doctor. But at the risk of being too optimistic, I think he'll probably still be involved in a significant and official way.
yes,
For a couple of reasons. One, Davidson has a close and good relationship with Moffat, so I don't think he'd do anything to try and screw him over. Dropping this teaser of his involvement was just something minor, if it was just something minor, or if it was for his own project, would leave fans severely disappointed come November, and I don't think he'd do that. Two, I can't think of many good reasons why he'd be under official orders not to talk about it if it was just some interview or panel appearance or something. If somebody at BBC is telling him to keep it secret, it must be worth keeping it secret. And I think that's kind of a,
But he was also seen with Sylvester McCoy and
that picture outside.
Colin Baker, and they had picket signs saying, put the doctors in Doctor Who. There's some speculation that he's doing a special, it's a spoof or a comedy thing that they're doing, and it is part of the official celebrations, and it's just kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing, and they've put that little much out, and that's what he's saying here is he's teasing to that, but they don't want to give away what they're doing, so he's being tight-lipped about that. That's what it is.
that's the ploy.
Here's what I will say.
You've got doctors standing outside being photographed in front of BBC Center the day they start shooting the Christmas special. No. Not buying it.
Well, he's not saying he's in the Christmas special, though.
I know that.
So,
but that's the thing.
That's
where they're. Yeah, I don't.
That's
buy
the point.
It. I
think because of the signs that they have, it's a spoof. It's a goof.
I
now,
think so.
Let me be the first to say, when I saw this break, I was actually disappointed. Not the fact that Davidson was in it or reportedly in it. It's the fact that I really didn't want to know that. I was actually kind of glad when they kept denying it and saying, no, we're not in it, we're not in it. We haven't been approached, blah, blah, blah. Because I was thinking, wouldn't that make it even more super awesome if they all popped up in this thing and they just pulled the wool on our eyes? But suddenly when you start reporting this far out, it's like, I wanted to be surprised by that. I wanted to believe your lies that you're not in it, and then suddenly show up.
Yeah, now
it pops my breath. Yeah, it pops the bubbles. But I really, reading this, it does not say he's in it.
You heard it here, Glenn. They're all going to be in it.
Everyone's sourcing female first.
Be very happy if they are.
But I'm not finding the original story that they're sorting.
They probably pulled it too.
They had to have, because
if you click the link from our Facebook page, it goes right to it.
Yeah,
to the Bang Showbiz quote.
Oh no,
that's the one I'm trying to find.
First.
I think I might have found it. Hold on.
Anyway, they're all in it.
Well, speaking of, there's pictures.
I'd love to see them in it and not play the Doctor, play like a whole different role. I think
so would Sylvester McCoy.
So would is that what he said?
That's what he said. Because in his words, look at us, we're old and fat. We can't do that now.
Yeah,
but we could do something else.
No, I'd love to see that.
I can't find the article on Bang Showbiz. But speaking of people who aren't coming back, Tom Baker was spotted in costume with a TARDIS nearby, but it appears it was filming for a Have I Got News For You sketch with Ian Hillsop and Paul Merton playing doctors.
It makes me sort of wonder if all of the doctors will be in that as well.
Maybe that's what Peter's referring to.
Peter Capaldi could be, and Peter Capaldi is actually hosting that episode, the Doctor Who special of what's the show called again?
I just closed it.
The new,
have I got something to tell you?
Yes, have I got news to tell you?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and so Capaldi's actually, I think, hosting that week, so that'll be nice. I mean, BBC had said all along that they really weren't pulling out the stops, that they had a lot of things planned, and the more that they reveal, it looks like they've got a lot going on.
To those in the U.S., it doesn't appear as much.
Yeah, well, and it's unfortunately, unless we get some of this stuff come across, the pond on BBC America or something like that, we don't get a lot of this stuff. So, yeah, it'll be, it's rightfully so. It's a big celebration in the UK, but we kind of want to be involved too.
Yeah. Which
is nice that BBC America has picked up the torch and done the revisiteds and things like that.
Yeah.
Too, so.
Moving on from that, as we mentioned, the 50th the Christmas special did start filming, and some pictures have surfaced of Matt and his wig.
And it looks great.
It looks
you can't tell it's a wig, from the pictures.
It's an absolutely phenomenal wig. He looks just like Colin Baker. I can't wait to see how they're going to pull this off.
I love the fact that there was speculation that now he couldn't do it in a wig, that just wouldn't look good. And but now they're kind of like, they're showing us, oh, yeah, I guess he could do a whole episode in a wig and just look just fine. So.
One last bit of news is they announced, I don't think you got this in your notes, but...
I do have it. I thought we were waiting until some feedback. But
the galley guests?
Yeah, I don't know why you said that, but you or he said we should wait until we do feedback.
I don't...
No.
Oh,
it was something completely separate that he talked about for something different.
Okay. Well, Sean's got some galley guest announcements.
As soon as I get back.
You want me to do it? I haven't pulled up.
If you have it pulled up, you can go ahead. I had it pulled up and then I went away from it. I don't know why. I'm not here today.
Keith has some galley.
There's a sad note.
No sad notes.
Bonnie Langford will not be able to make it in 2014 due to a professional engagement that runs through next February.
Yeah.
Oh, Sean.
Mel's not going to make it.
Maybe Sylvester will come back next year, and then her and Sylvester can be there together. That would be kind of cool.
But in addition, they added Tommy Haddock.
Haddock, I think.
Haddock.
Author of Moths Ate My Doctor Who Scarf, and of course now he's
going to
much associated with
a special performance of his second play, My Stepson Stole My Sonic Screwdriver.
That's his second.
That's
it's a follow-up.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. I've heard
the sequel to the Moths Ate My Doctor.
Yeah, I've heard Moths, and it's really, really, really good. And if you've never heard it, I mean, whether you're, I think it really hits home for people that grew up with the show and it probably especially hits home for people in the UK that grew up with the show and watched the classic. But I even associated a lot with it, listening to it. I don't know about you.
I still haven't listened to it.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
You should.
I should. We should do that as an episode. We should review.
Oh, maybe sure.
Well, we'll call Toby Haddock and get him on the show.
I bet he would Skype in.
We'll find out how to pronounce his name.
I think it's Haddock.
Haddock.
I think I've heard them say Haddock.
They've also added
Haddock.
Ellie and Joseph Darcy Alden, the two kiddos from Snowman. What?
Sorry.
I'm going backwards in order.
I know.
Francesca and Digby.
You're supposed to build to the better ones.
Wait, that's what I'm doing.
Oh.
I'm building to the better ones.
Toby Haddock should have been.
I'm doing reverse order of what they posted.
Yeah.
Wasn't Digby the kid in Dr. Widow and Wardrobe?
Digby Down Under? Oh, hey, that was quick.
That was quickly Down Under. It was Francesca and Digby from The Snowman.
Yeah, Francesca, who also was young Lily Potter in Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 2. There's your another Harry Potter connection.
Because we needed another one of those.
Jamie Glover, the son of Julian Glover, who is playing William Russell. In An Adventure in Space and Time. Deep Roy. For those that don't know,
you do that every time we talk about Deep Roy. You're like, who is this guy?
No, I know who Deep Roy is.
Oh, okay. I'm excited.
Picking Homunculus. Mr. Sim. From Talons.
Mm-hmm.
And many, many, many other things.
Most recently, he was Kestner in Star Trek. He's in Return of the Jedi. He's in Return to Oz.
I know who he is. I'm not all that excited.
He's also in Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
You can get a Flash Gordon autograph.
We can get a Flash Gordon autograph.
The ultimate scene of the movie that has so many people from Who.
Move on?
Yes, there you go. That's the one I was
Jacqueline King, who played Sylvia Noble, Donna's mom.
This is the one I can't get excited about, quite honestly, because I hated Donna's mother through so much of that series. I feel bad, but it's like...
Why are we dragging this out? Just announced him.
Jean Marsh, who was alongside William Hartnell's original Doctor, first as Joanna in The Crusade, and then companion Sarah Kingdom in the 12-part Daleks Master Plan. And then finally...
She also appeared as Morgiane in Battlefield.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I knew that name sounded familiar. Especially, we talked about that in her being in...
Yeah, we discussed Battlefield.
Yes.
She was also in Return to Oz and Willow.
And then finally, Kate O'Mara. The Ronnie.
Yep.
The Ronnie, not Ronnie.
Yeah.
Not Ronnie.
The Ronnie. That's the one that I'm bummed that I'm not getting to go this year. I'd love
Are you
to get
officially
another
not getting to go this year?
Oh, yeah, officially.
Oh, I don't know that I ever knew that.
Oh, yes.
That's
the one. That's the one that I would absolutely love to have autographed. I'll probably have to send you money with that one, with you for that one. So that one and Colin, for certain.
And Deep Roy.
It was going to be Bonnie, but no, it's Bonnie.
And Joe. And Benton.
Or Perry.
Benton, I'm not so worried about. He shows up to stuff like every 2 years.
Or Caroline
all over
Ford.
the place, so Caroline Ford would be another one that I think I'd like to have. Do you remember on my budget? I budget 3. So no, I don't want Andrew right now. I budget for 3, so Caroline would probably be the other one. Although, didn't she? I thought she backed out. Didn't she back out of something?
Not yet.
She backed out somewhere else.
Who did?
Caroline Ford.
Last year. She was supposed to be at Galley last year.
Okay, that's what it was.
We were concerned about her health.
I think, yeah.
That's what it was.
That's all the news for this week.
All right. Let's move on to feedback. First up.
Daryl. Comment question? Well, let's try this again. Hello, Vortexians. Daryl here from Gallifrey Street, after all. Does anyone get that bit? Anyone? Hitchhikers? No? Okay, anyway.
Oh, that's a Hitchhiker's reference. Yeah, I got it.
Did you guys see one of my Instagram pictures from Legoland? There was a deep thought.
Oh,
that one, yes.
Next to a Cylon
I didn't see that.
ship.
That's cool.
Yeah. They're like, come on, we need your help doing the Star Wars scavenger hunt. I'm like, no, I got a picture.
No, this is more important.
Anyway, just wanted to say hello and say again that I enjoyed Chrissy's report from Salt Lake Comic-Con. When I first heard that she was going to be there, I was hoping that she would mention something about Big Finish Games, and she did. Let me explain. Big Finish Games is a gaming company founded by Chris Jones, who plays Tex Murphy in a bunch of 90s FMV adventure games on the PC, under a Killing Moon, the Pandora Directive, and Overseer. The company is based out of Salt Lake City, and many people have been putting their blood, sweat, and tears into bringing Tex back to the masses. After a successful Kickstarter campaign last year, I Am a Backer, which raised $600,000, the game will finally be released around February, titled The Tesla Effect, a Tex Murphy adventure. It is everything a Doctor Who fan would love. Cheesy, intentional, and unintentional acting, great sci-fi story, and a film noir adventure in a post-apocalyptic San Francisco. Here's the link to the first trailer. Even has a mutant straight out of Utopia. And then we'll include the link in the show notes. So please check it out and show them some love. Or check out the old games on GOG.com. You can pick them up really cheap. On to Doctor Who. I've been hearing some rumors over the last 6 months. Potential spoilers. That many Doctor Who episodes have been recovered and are being readied for the 50th anniversary. They may be shown on TV or released on DVD or a combination. The rumor is anywhere from 17 episodes, Marco Polo, Enemy of the World, and Web of Fear, MEW for short, to upwards of 90 episodes, minus a few Dalek Master Plan not part of the find. Now, I've heard rumors in the past, but not like this, from numerous Doctor Who people. Ian Levine, Annette, Anke, I don't know how
it's Annika.
Annika Wills, Tom Silsbury, Stephen Moffat, and others have made cryptic comments that can be dissected. Supposedly commentaries have been recorded for Fury of the Deep and the Power of the Daleks. Too many whisperings and cover-ups. The episodes were supposedly found in a massive haul from Africa over the last 3 to 4 years, and supposedly 8,000 canisters were located, various programs by a film collector. Just Google it and you will see the rumors. Over 40...
Daryl, are you behind? We've been talking about this for 2 months.
Over 40,000 posts on Gallifrey Base in the past 6 months or so.
That's a reliable site.
Hey now.
Sorry.
There are a lot of business people involved in the negotiations, and it could take more time, though. There are lots of old programs and lots of potential money involved. Very delicate situation. Moffat said we'll get more Who than ever this year, and so far, nothing. So his comment would make sense if they were to reveal the finds very shortly. So what do you guys think? Do you think we'll be treated to a bunch of recovered episodes and be the best year yet for Doctor Who? Or is all we are getting is the 2 specials and that's it? Personally, I think we Who fans who have dreamed about seeing Marco Polo, Enemy of the World, and the Web of Fear, in addition to many others, Smugglers, Macra, and the Space Pirates, oh my, may be in a treat come November. Keep up the awesome work. Your podcast is still my favorite over the last few years, and I hope you never get tired of it. Daryl. And Daryl, he says, Gilliford Street, after all. Okay, I'll stop. And we missed Daryl's email last...
After all.
We missed Daryl's email last week. Somehow it got lost in the vortex, so we apologize. He intended it for last week. But what do you guys think? You want to weigh in again about this?
I think we've commented at exhaustion that about the episodes and how we've been on this roller coaster ride over the last 3 months. But the only thing I can say is believe it when we see it, or believe it when I see it, because we've been on this roller coaster. We've been on this denial series. The best thing that I think the BBC can do is deny it all the way up to the announcement. But then again, if you deny something all the way up to the announcement, and then you say, "Oh wait, we really do have them," kind of sullies your trust in a company when they do that, even if it's for your own good, that they're trying to keep it as a surprise. So it's a very dangerous line to walk in order to do that.
But if they haven't
quite frankly,
continually
Ian Levine
it,
has backed off on this, and he's actually backpedaled on it a bit too, and acknowledged it's rumor. Now, is that the BBC coming to him saying,
"Hey, cut it out.
Hey, cut it out. We want it to be a surprise. Please give us this." But Ian has a real rocky relationship with the BBC. I haven't heard anything. I'm not saying that they're not out there. Annika Willis and Tom Salisbury. I'd love to see where they've dropped cryptic clues, and maybe I'll go look and find some of that information, because I didn't delve into it too deep when we were on the roller coaster the first time. Now, Stephen Moffat has obviously quoted that there'll be a lot of Doctor Who, and we will. But we
and to be fair,
we just got it this week, but we now have a lot more than we had even 2 weeks ago when you sent this out, Daryl. So we have more than just a special and a docudrama. So
well, and we are. He said in his email the 2 specials. To be fair, we'll have 10 episodes of Doctor Who this year, because we've already had 8. Series 7 Part B was 2013,
right?
So it's not we're not just getting 2 episodes in the 50th year. We got more than that.
Well, that doesn't constitute more than ever before, because we've gotten 12 episodes in a year. So I don't think I would qualify.
Well, no, I'm just saying he's in his response to we're just getting 2 specials and that's it. We've gotten more than 2 specials.
Well, but we've been belly aching about,
and
we've been belly aching about that for a long time. So I don't think I wouldn't count the tail end of Series 7. But believe it when I see it. I'd be ecstatic to get all of those Who episodes. But Sean's one of those glass half full type guys who I think he buys into the rumors a little more than I do, and I think I'm a little more skeptical. So I fell down on I'll be glad to see them if they are there. But I really, this is getting high hopes over something that might not be true. And when you set yourself up too high, it's a longer fall. So
I'm an eternal optimist.
How's that worked out for you?
Not so good. Got married twice. I want to believe. I want yes, pull the wool over my eyes and beat me with it. I want there to be more. And I want to believe that there is, and that they, I just for the same reason that I believe it's a ploy, that we are actually getting, it's on the other side, that we are getting the doctors, in the 50th. That I think that they're pulling a fast one, and that right now I think BBC is playing a fairly magnificent shell game, and I think that maybe some of it's true, maybe all of it's true, maybe none of it's true, and they are keeping all of these balls in the air for no other reason than to keep us distracted from what is actually going on. And so, what better way to keep the fans off balance over what you're actually doing for the 50th anniversary than to say, hey, did you hear that we might have found 90 episodes in Africa? I mean, yeah, that's going to be fodder for months. Hey, did you hear that they might actually be putting the classic Doctors? Because here's a picture of Tom Baker shooting something. I mean, those are the kind of things that fuel the fire. And if none of it winds up being true, but because, well, we've actually got this, then, okay. Unless it's another crossover with EastEnders. But
I will always hope that they find new episodes. I just don't have much stock in this rumor because it's so large. Because the rumored amount is so massive that I just have a hard time believing it.
I think the problem with Gallifrey Base, too, is Gallifrey Base used to be a great resource for Doctor Who. Unfortunately, it had a little bit of a cancer at one time that has spread across the entire message board community there. And unfortunately, you have to really, really dig for the good stuff at Gallifrey Base. And so anybody and everybody can get on there and post as long as you've been approved to be on the boards, and anybody can be approved to get onto those boards. So
I'm approved.
Yeah, I mean, if Sean can get on the boards, then anybody.
Yeah, for Pete's sake, people.
But that one's a tough one to use. That as you'll never ever be able to, in Glenn's court of law, use Gallifrey Base as any sort of evidence for anything. But no offense, because there are some good posts on Gallifrey Base, but it's outweighed by a lot of the bad that's on there, and the trolls that are on there, and so
that's why I've avoided it. It's because
you've
heard about the trolls
altogether. I just don't want to do it. When I first came back to Doctor Who, I visited there frequently, and it was a great place to be. But it's just full of negativity and full of falsehoods and rumors.
Those fans I don't want to be around, predominantly.
There's still some good people on there, but
we will post the link in the show notes for the Big Finish games for the Tesla adventure, which I'm really intrigued about now, this Tex Murphy character. So I'll have to look and do some research on that.
All right. Well, thank you, Daryl. Sorry we didn't get your feedback last week, but we looked all over the place for it.
I don't know what happened to it. Up next is Lisa.
That should be said. If you send feedback and you don't hear it on the show...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Send
us
an email.
A heads up, which Daryl did. Give us a heads up and say, hey, I didn't hear my feedback, because we generally read everything that we know about. And if we missed something, give us a heads up. It may be that we just overlooked it, and maybe that we just didn't get it. So we'd like to know, because I wouldn't want anybody to send feedback and say, oh, they must not have liked my feedback.
They're
so
snobs.
They just didn't read it.
Yeah.
Give us a heads up, because we try to get everything on the show. We're not one of those shows that kind of filters. Of course, we don't have enough listeners, but we're not one of those shows that kind of filters out the email.
We read the solicitation email the 1 week. I mean, obviously, we don't filter.
We've backed off on some of those spam ones now, too.
We've stopped the spam, at the very least.
And I don't have a filter, so...
Lisa's. I was excited about Lisa's. Okay, sorry. Not that I wasn't excited about yours, Daryl, but Lisa had... I
haven't read Lisa's yet, so...
I don't know that I agree with all of them, but in very neat little points. So.
All right. This comes from Lisa. Writes... comment question. Howdy, hosts of Traveling the Vortex. Long-time listener, first-time emailer Lisa here. I'm on the far north coast of California. Well, hello, Lisa, from the far north coast of California.
Thanks for writing in.
Thanks for listening.
The mountainous region? That's probably more northwest or northeast.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. Are there mountains on the coast?
That's why I was saying it's probably more in the northeast.
There are mountains in Goonies, and it was in Oregon. That's further north.
That's not California.
No, but it's next door.
Very next door.
I don't know where Astoria is, but... Oh, we should do that. We should do that for Flicks with Friends.
Well, sure we should.
We should do Goonies. But I digress.
So we're going to keep Flicks with Friends the 80s movies?
No.
No? It's just that's the trend so far. Goonies. We were just... when did Rocky Horror come out?
If Keith was not 5 years or less, we're not doing them.
I disagree with that statement entirely. There's too much good stuff there.
No.
That he just...
If Keith was not 5 years old or younger, then we're not doing it.
We better go up to 6. That way you can go to 89.
6 years older or younger.
Anyway.
Sorry,
kidding.
Lisa.
I'm really just kidding.
I very much enjoy your podcast. I meet people who say they love Doctor Who, but seem to know very little about the program. One guy refers to David Tennant as brown corduroy jacket guy.
Wow.
Sigh.
That's sad.
Having a conversation with them about the show is pointless. So being able to listen to you all babble on about Doctor Who, new and classic, is marvelous. Thank you for all the time you put into the podcast.
You know, she said, I enjoy your podcast. I meet people who say they love Doctor Who, but seem to know little about the program. And I thought, well, you must really not know us. We don't know much about the program either. We pretend that we know. But then as she went on and she says, so being able to listen to you babble on about Doctor Who, and then I thought, oh yeah,
that's an accurate statement.
She listens.
She listens.
We babble on about Doctor Who.
And other things. Ad nauseum. Now to babble about Doctor Who. 1. The Moffat Master Plan. I had to pause dramatically before reading that. To explain granddaughter Susan, along with fixing loose ends and weak storylines. A. Moffat has had the Doctor marry a woman whose timeline is the inverse of the Doctor's.
River Song.
Yes.
That's what he's referring to.
Would the Doctor not meet his grandchildren and children before he went about having them if the children were to move along River's timeline also? Ooh.
So you're saying is Susan is Rivers and the Doctor's child? Or
No.
It would be Rivers' grandchild also?
Correct.
That's what I meant.
Yes.
Right.
Wow.
Keep going.
Okay.
She's got some really great little nuggets here that I don't know that I agree with all of them, but I think they're very intriguing.
B, the 50th anniversary in the 23rd of November. C, Clara is born on the 23rd of November. Her grave in the snowman tells us so. D, there is going to be 2 Doctors in the 50th anniversary special. E, River responses to Rory, her dad, in A Good Man Goes to War. 2 Doctors. Now that is a whole other birthday.
Which I had never thought about, because I thought she was saying, ooh, 2 Doctors, that's a whole other birthday, thinking that would be a nice birthday present to have 2 of him at the same time. Not in the sense that she has had a birthday with 2 versions of the Doctor.
Yeah, I always interpreted that quote also, but then I saw The Night the Doctor, where she briefly saw the two versions.
2 versions,
of
the one Doctor.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's probably not, but it's cool.
That might be stretching a little bit.
That's a stretch. That's a cool stretch. 2, the Moffat Master Loop. A, Clara gets the Doctor to take the right TARDIS in the name of the Doctor. In the Doctor's Wife, we learn the TARDIS takes the Doctor where he needs to go. C, the Doctor needs to go to Amy's to have Amy and Rory create River, the woman he loves and marries. As per name of the Doctor, he refers to River as his wife. I should have read this before.
And she's saying, who buried that body?
Who buried what body?
There's no body.
There's no body in Forest of the Dead. And answers what I believe is the oldest question in the universe. Did you ever love me? I am a girl after all. Yeah, that's true.
The graveside answers the question.
The graveside answers the question.
And that is true. That's a good point.
If Clara is the Doctor's daughter, is she impossible because he is old man and River's a young time lady? He needs to go to Amy's, tell her to marry Rory, have them on board the TARDIS for their honeymoon so River can be born, so he and River can have Clara, so that she can see that the Doctor takes the right TARDIS, so that this loop can happen.
So you see what she's done there? Because she hasn't pointed this point out. So he and River can have Clara.
So Clara...
So I think she's presuming that Clara is Susan's mother, the Doctor's daughter. But we haven't, because we've got weird timeline thing going on.
We haven't got that reveal yet.
We haven't gotten that reveal yet that Clara is his daughter. and Clara and River have,
And that's why that's
the
why
Doctor and River have Clara later, but he meets Clara, his
Because he's
daughter,
continuing
when
to meet
she's
her
older,
later.
earlier in the time stream.
and that's why she can enter his time stream.
Yeah.
D.
Which means Clara's earthly parents would have to be non-biological, but
Which would go against what we were told in Rings of Akaton.
we know for a fact that they're biological
Well,
parents. We just know
well, I
she has
guess-
parents. She
yeah.
knows that they came together because of that leave.
Yeah, that's true. Huh?
They could drop
Yeah,
the ball
they
and
could
say,
drop-
"Hey,
Hey.
she's adopted."
I could have sworn I remember a
The
shot
doctor
from
dropped
him in
her
the
off
hospital
on,
or something. Yeah, it's possible.
I don't know. We have to
They-
go back
they
and watch
could
after
work
this
it.
now.
Yeah.
D. In The Big Bang, the Doctor says to Amy to remember what he told her when she was 7. One of the last things he says to her is to love Rory. Rory is the last Centurion and River's dad. If you're a Time Lord going to have children, you know they're going to have to be brave and courageous. E. I don't believe Clara is human. She tricked the Doctor in Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. Post-touching the TARDIS and pre-touching the bomb big friendly button, Clara is rubbing the palm of her hand that she touches the bomb with.
That's merely though from the fact that it burned her because it had traveled across
That's what I thought too.
time streams. Or
The Doctor touches her burned hand and then believes she's just human.
so I think what she's saying.
So
here
maybe
is
she's
that-
got some sort of psychic implant or something that she does this, which that he now...
Well, that's reading more
where we're
into
going?
it to me. I thought that the fact that she had burned her hand just somehow disguised the fact that she was Time Lord when he touched her, so that he wouldn't get some sort of imprint.
Oh, because he'd be able to pick up immediately.
Right, exactly.
Ah, I got you.
I think she's found a way for Moffat to say, this is how I disguised the fact that he couldn't pick up on Clara being a Time Lord. Because, I mean, they can walk up to somebody in a whole different body, never have seen a regeneration, and know who that person even is.
But
Although he didn't figure out who River was for the longest time.
they touched before that.
They'd even kissed before that.
Although, technically not her full-blown persona.
Yeah.
It's been
Her actual self.
her splintered
Yeah.
pieces of her floating around within his time stream.
No, before they touched with in Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, they touched before that. When he grabs her hand and runs her into the TARDIS.
In what episode?
The
Bells of St. John.
Okay,
They've touched multiple times.
Okay, you're right. F. Clara's book, 101 Places to See, page with the writing, property of Clara Oswald, age 9, 10, 11, crossed off in red ink, 12, written in red ink, crossed off in black, 13, 14, 15, 16 is missing, 17, 18, 19, marked off with twice or an X, 20, 21, 22, 23 is missing, 24 not marked off. If Clara is 24 in 2013, she was born in 1989, the year Doctor Who went off the air.
Ooh, that's interesting, too.
Her 16th year, which is missing in the list, would be 2005, the year Doctor Who returned, and the year her mother died. As Grave the Stone scene in Rings of Akaton reads, Ellie Rowanwood, 11th September 1960 to 5 March 2005, the day Rose leaked on the internet.
That gets a little conspiracy theorist there, but it is interesting that it correlates.
On the page we see that has Ellie Rowanwood written on it. In a book of the same title, it says aged 11, and it is not crossed off. Ellie, short for Melody. I could be wrong. There's a first for everything. Lisa. P.S. One last thing to think about that have answered. In A Time of Angels, River says to the Doctor that she has a spotter's guide to his faces. Where, when, and from whom did she get this? Was it Clara? She has seen all the Doctor's faces.
Well, that's a good one, too. I like that one as well. I think you hit on a lot of interesting things here. I think that the ink crossing through, which you're just being diligent here, and I appreciate that. I think the ink in which things are crossed through are irrelevant. I mean, and you just, after a year, you have whatever pens around to cross through. The interesting thing that I think Moffat plans to answer is the reason why there are years missing in the book as decrossing off, other than maybe she put it down for a year and she didn't come back to it until another year. But so I think that's interesting, and I didn't find the correlation at all, and you did some very proper digging to find the fact that our 16 year, which is missing, it would be 2005, which is when the show returned. The fact that she was born on the day. Well, I think I had seen somebody else point out the fact that she was born on the date that Doctor Who premiered on television. I think it's stretching a little bit to equate to the day that Rose leaked on the internet, because it did on March 5th of 2005. And the fact that Ellie might be short for Melody. I think we see Ellie in a lot of the episodes. Now, she is a time lady, but we know her last incarnation, since she was married and died, is the incarnation that we've seen all along. And we see Ellie when her parents meet at the beginning of Rings of Akaton. Yeah. And the only other time I think that we see her is when she's a young girl in the swings with the Doctor on that prequel, and we don't get a good look at her, but it's pretty clear that it's not Melody that we know of.
Right.
So.
Now, just I think an interesting one. So she's got these 2 years missing.
That's an adoptive mother that is not really Ellie. So.
Well, she's got these 2 years that are missing. She's got 16 and 23. Well, 16 is the year her mother died.
Yes.
So I can totally buy I'm not picking up the book.
True.
Because it's
that's too painful.
It's just she probably, I took a year off. I just, you just wouldn't go near it. But that doesn't explain why 23 is missing.
23 is the year that the kids that she's nannying for, governessing for, that's the year that their mother died. Remember, she had by the time Spells of St. John started, she had been watching these kids for a year since their mother had died.
Oh, okay.
And she's a friend of the family, and that's why she took on the charge. So there's another death in that year, which could be another reason why she maybe just didn't pick that book up, because again, she was taking a year off because she's charged with these kids.
So it may not be anything that's a huge deal.
She's about to end that charge because she's saying one more day, at the beginning of Bells of St. John, because he's saying, another day, and she says, as long as you need me, but you get the impression that she's about to move on, that she's not going to be with these kids anymore. So now suddenly she's planning out her life, and she's picking this book up again at the age of 24.
So it could be that there is no, because I know a lot of us really read into that, going, what is the, what are we going to? So maybe there isn't. Maybe it's just that's one of those little tiny character development.
There are 2 deaths in those particular years, and I wouldn't have thought of that had I not recently watched Bells of St. John with Holly. So
I really like the idea that Clara gave River the Spotter's Guide.
I really like that.
It goes against other media that we've been presented in the Eternity Clock. You pick up pages of River's diary, and she talks about using the Vortex manipulator to go and spy on every incarnation of it.
But she has to have the book first in order to know where to go.
No, this is
who to look for.
Her taking. I mean, she does need to know who to go look for, but she does still physically go look.
I know, but the point is she's using the guide to go look.
So
the guide has to happen before the events.
I got the impression that the Spotter's Guide was what her note she took. Is the journal is her Spotter's Guide in the episode?
No, I could read that as 2 different
I mean, it could be Clara telling her. I don't. I
see what you're saying, but I get the impression
there's literally a Spotter's Guide.
I think the Spotter's Guide
that's taking the line too
she's
literally.
Using something in order to go find these other incarnations of Doctor. She doesn't know what she's looking for.
She could have had Clara tell her, go to this point to see what this incarnation looks like.
If you're going to accept that one, and accept the fact that Clara just gave her a Spotter's Guide.
That's lame.
Polaroids, and they're
yes.
Yeah, she went to Kinko's and bound them together.
I just don't think
flip book. And
why not?
Here's who you're looking for.
I think this is some deep stuff, Lisa. I think you did a really nice job laying a lot of this out. Email. It's interesting stuff. I don't know how much of it I buy into it, but there's a lot of pieces here that are very intriguing, and I'd be excited to see Moffat go down this road on some of these things that you've kind of pointed out here. So it'll be interesting, and I'm glad that you're listening. I'm glad that you have written in and don't be shy about writing in.
Yes,
definitely.
In the future,
more
because
if you feel like
it's fun to talk about these kind of things and to hear about speculation that people bring forward. So we certainly do it on this show. That's for sure.
No, we don't get that here.
All right, let's move on. Next up is Brenda. Brenda writes, "Dear Vortex Gang, I've just listened to your reviews.
Don't forget the subject line.
Oh, subject line is Wonderful Doctor, Great Companions, Sketchy Movie. I wasn't going to read that because Sean probably would leave.
Bollocks!
Dear Vortex Gang, I've just listened to your reviews of the 8th Doctor Revisited show, and I want to answer a couple of your questions before I forget. First, in the broadcast of the actual movie, they did not edit the scene of the 7th Doctor being shot. Actually, having watched the movie several times in the past few months, I didn't notice any scenes that got edited in a noticeable way. You also ask about the placement of commercials during the BBC broadcast of the episodes of each Doctor. They basically just stuck in a commercial block every 10 or 15 minutes, so pretty much like regular broadcast presentations. And like many broadcasts of content that didn't have built-in commercial breaks, they sometimes chose questionable places to stick in the commercials, though not so much for the movie. Lastly, regarding the upcoming 9th Doctor Revisited, I saw today a guest list for the show, and it didn't list Eccleston. No surprise there. According to the article, they will interview Moffat, Neil Gaiman, Noel Clarke, and John Barrowman. They didn't list Billy Piper, nor did they list Russell T. Davies, both of whom Davies, which would have been essential in my opinion. Oh well, more missed opportunities. And I also agree with you on the Empty Child the Doctor Dances would have been a better pick than Bad Wolf and Parting of the Ways. Apart from the regeneration, there's not a lot about Bad Wolf and Parting of the Ways that I consider noteworthy. I don't know about that, but I certainly agree that Empty Child and Dr. Dancers are much better.
Then I challenge you to get on Twitter this Friday night and join us for Friday Night Who. And voice your opinions, where Glenn will not listen to them.
Oh well, enough about that. About the 8th Doctor era. I confess that I haven't read any books or listened to any Big Finish stories featuring the 8th Doctor, so my experience is limited to the movie, and I have something of a love-hate relationship with it. That's not to say that I have any problems with the 8th Doctor. I love the character that Paul McGann developed, and he had me at his audition. Seriously, that audition footage is so wonderful. Just to see how McGann takes direction and completely shifts his approach is a master class in acting. The problems that I have with the movie go back to the original story with all the convoluted stuff about the Doctor searching for his father, and the Master is his brother, and he's half human, and on and on. I know that much of the backstory was eventually abandoned, but it is such a left turn from the canon that had been established up to that point. Also, I think the entire tone of the movie feels very American, and it feels wrong for Doctor Who. The violence that starts it off with the Doctor getting shot in a gang war is quite jarring. I didn't like seeing the Doctor gunned down, and I also found it jarring to see him on an operating table hooked up to life support and getting defibrillated. The way the Master murders his wife so coldly just borders on cruel, as does his casual dispatching of Grace and Chang later. And why did he just peel a fingernail off at one point? Seriously. Other than giving us another opportunity for some blood, did that serve any sort of plot need?
I can address that one.
I can too, but you go ahead.
Because he makes the comment that the body will not last, and so it's already deteriorating and beginning to decay and fall apart, which is why he wears the shades, not just to cover up his green eyes, but because his face is starting to...
If you look, it's very dark around his eyes.
His eyes are literally kind of sinking into his skull, and he's kind of becoming the mummified Tom Baker Master again at that point, although he still looks like Eric Roberts. But
right.
So yes, that was the reasoning for the which I agree with you on that one. I felt that the fingernail was, I don't know how to say gratuitous, but I felt it bordered on poor
flipping
taste.
It onto the glass.
Yeah.
That was just.
But at the same time, it's such a wonderful Master moment that I let it go. Okay, go ahead.
She goes on to write, as one who has visited the UK quite often in my adult life, I can attest to the fact that the British people, as a rule, are much quieter and gentler than Americans, and the general atmosphere of life in the UK does feel different from life in America. I know that this sounds like a stereotype, but it really is true. I think this is why I prefer British telly or movies over American ones, and this is why the Doctor Who feels very American to me. Let me address that real quick and briefly, Brenda, because I kind of had a different take on this in the sense that when I watched classic Who as a kid, I grew up in the 80s, and I watched a lot of American television where the van flipped over and the bad guy crawled out, And no, seriously.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a lot of what would have been potential death action, or the A-Team shot bullets through everything, but never killed anybody. I mean,
horrible shots.
That was the thing. Is back in the 80s, I thought we were very tempered, and then I was watching Doctor Who, which is a British television show, and the body counts were enormous. People were dying left and right, and I was amazed and a bit shocked by this back in the 80s. So there was always that flip with me, as I thought I didn't think that there was the violence that we saw in American television. I mean, there was a lot. Violence doesn't have to mean death and gore, but people didn't die in American television, but they did die. So to me, I flipped that in my head, and I thought, well, it's much more of a darker, violent issue in the UK. So I looked at it from that perspective.
It's very much the G.I. Joe argument that we can all these lasers going off and shooting everything and everybody and things exploding, but there's always a parachute.
Yeah, every time.
Every single time. And that literally is kind of the definition of this cartoon violence that permeates so much of American pop culture.
Yes.
So I agree with you there.
So, however, I think modern day, I think we're much more. The body counts are higher now here than I see on British television. So now, I think there has been this.
Well, and I wonder how much of it is because of that. How much of it is that the cartoon violence got to the point where nobody bought it anymore.
Yeah.
So
we certainly evolved.
They
Now, I will concur that the Doctor Who movie feels very American. I've said that all along, that it feels very. I think it has aspects of Who, and it could have been worse, but it does feel very American to me as well. I found it interesting to hear your debate on the last podcast whether you would have watched more Doctor Who from the team who brought us the movie. Okay. And as much as it pains me to say this, I'm actually glad that the movie failed to launch a series reboot at the time. I desperately wish that Paul McGann could have had more on-screen stories, but I think the movie team would have gotten it all wrong in the same way the American intervention wrecked the last season of Torchwood. I agree with your conclusion. The failure of the movie to gain traction in 1996 meant a stronger reboot in 2005. That's another thing, though, Brenda, is I concur entirely with what you're saying here. That's coming from somebody that has just watched the movie. When I watched the movie in 1996, all of the memories of Doctor Who that I wasn't able to revisit because I didn't have VHS copies of it or anything like that at the time, and hadn't delved back into the series again. All of this Doctor Who kept washing over me, and I kept thinking, and I love the movie. I still love the movie for all its flaws. And at the time, I would have loved to have seen that continue on, even if it had been Americanized, even because it was Doctor Who back on television, and it was something that I had loved growing up. And so that's the perspective that I come from, that I would have loved it. However, I also fall down on the side of, I'm glad that it did fail, because I think we got a much better product by rebooting it in 2005, which I think we all agreed on last week.
Well, that's the joy of hindsight. Is I'm in the same boat. At the time, would have absolutely, because it would have meant more Doctor Who. Yeah. I mean, I will take, as we've said before, any Who is good Who, and an Americanized Who that's on in the 90s during what had been such a long, dry spell of wilderness years. Yeah, absolutely, I'll take that. I will take that in a heartbeat. Absolutely. But now that we've had New Who gone, and we've had the show come back, yes, I agree with you. I think we got a better product by it not being there. It's still a little sad in a way that we didn't get it. Maybe in a parallel universe, it's still running on American TV.
And can you honestly say, maybe this is a question for later, but can you honestly say, had you more recently seen the new movie, you hadn't, the movie, you had not seen it in 96, would you have as much of a love affair as you do with it now?
I could understand why many wouldn't have the love affair with the movie. Going to it from New Who to the movie.
We can't wipe out the fact that you've seen Classic Who, but let's wipe out the fact that you maybe didn't see the movie in 96. You saw the reboot, and then you saw the movie. Would you have as much of a love affair? I think you still would love it, but would you have as much of a love affair?
I would still love it.
Because I love it.
But you came to it without any classic.
That's true.
As well.
Well, I had some classic.
He had some classic.
But you didn't grow up. I guess that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Is that we were differently removed because we had attachment to the classic series when we were kids.
I'm trying to put myself in that position of if all of my knowledge came from New Who.
Well, let me say this then. Let's leave the question out there, and if you want to just kind of maybe mull over it.
I'll mull over it and think on it.
Because we're talking about the retrospective, so it might fall in line a little more.
That's an interesting question. I don't know.
We'll revisit it when we...
Because there's so much of it. Even though I've said that it serves as such a bridge from classic to new, But I think that's one of the reasons that because I'm looking at it as a bridge. If I
Right.
didn't have that comparison to make with it, I don't know.
Well, you and I both wear rose-colored glasses on that movie. You know,
It's perfect.
We both
You
admit
can't.
it.
You-
we
yeah,
both
yeah.
admit it. So. She goes on to say, all that being said, there's a lot to love about the Eighth Doctor era, even when considering just the movie. It was wonderful to see how Doctor Who could look with the sort of money spent on the film. Though I just hated the look of the stupid rubber cement slivery snaky thing that was supposed to be the Master's new trick. I do love the new console and the rest of the console room. The cloister and other sets did a good job of conveying the bigger on the inside concept. I was on board with the kissing idea from the start, though I thought the actual kiss was pretty lame. Closed mouths, no passion. It seemed perfectly natural that the Doctor would kiss Grace in the excitement of regaining his money and finding shoes that fit. And once the deed was done, it made sense to do it again. I agree with Moffat's take on this. There was nothing in the canon that precluded a romantic side. We just hadn't seen it up until now. And that's why I buy the romantic storylines in New Who as well. If the birds and the whales and all manner of living creatures can mate for life and have apparent connections to their mates, of course the highly evolved Time Lords would have the same sort of emotional connections to each other that we humans experience. If we could have had the same actors portraying the same characters and with the same production values, but in a movie made in the UK and more closely resembling the Doctor Who that had been around for 30 years, perhaps the show would have caught on again. As it is, I think we got a great Doctor and two interesting companions in an uneven movie and fighting a Master who had no redeeming characteristics. I do recognize that my opinions are colored by the knowledge that the show came back even stronger 9 years after the movie. I'm sure that had I been watching it in 1996, after having no Doctor Who for 7 years and not knowing if there would ever be any more Who ever, my evaluations might have been quite different. As it is, I'm happy with the way things turned out. She just answered that from earlier, our defense. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the Eighth Doctor era, and I do plan to check out some of the Big Finish stories with the Eighth Doctor just to expand my understanding. Until then, I hope you all have a great week and happy travels to Sean when he heads to Hawaii. Brenda in Atlanta.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Brenda.
Well, we'll touch more on the Eighth Doctor's era as we go.
I want to touch on something that she brought up.
Sure.
I don't think that if the movie was more resembling to the 30 years of the show that came ahead, it would have continued on. Because obviously, it stopped. If it
there was a reason for that.
Yeah, if it were more like Classic Who, it would not have continued. Yeah. And that's why it has to be different.
I'll address why I think that it could have been more like Classic Who.
It could have been more like,
we get there.
but it...
I'll address that.
It needed to try something.
I don't want to steal too much of our retrospective. So.
Because otherwise we'll be the revisited.
That's right.
Because we don't have Paul McGinn either.
At least we have an excuse.
Yeah.
I have a surprise for you standing by on Skype right now. I had to wait until this moment to reveal it because he hadn't gotten up yet. But now he's up, refreshed, and in front of his computer.
And
ladies and gentlemen, Paul McGann.
You thought we were just rambling on about what we did for this weekend
We were buying time.
We were buying time for Paul.
I wish that was true. It would be awesome to have Paul on Skype. Oh, that'd be so awesome.
It's not true?
No.
Aww.
We don't have.
Would it help to say that I attempted to get Paul probably more so than
Yes, it does. Is it professional commitments? Is that the reason that we couldn't get a hold of him?
Yeah, it was professional commitments, yeah.
Well, at least we know. You heard it here. We tried.
BBC American didn't even tell us why he wasn't on there.
We don't have Paul, but we do have Holly. She writes in, "Hey guys, thank you. Great last podcast. Wanted to let you know there was no problems with the audio at all through the whole podcast. I could hear all three of you, no problems at all. On to the reviews. Enemy Aliens. An interesting audio. It was nice to get another adventure with Charlie. India did a good job with narrating and going into her Charlie voice. I think she did a good pretty good job getting the 8th Doctor's annotations down. Zuzu.
Sorry, I really ought to disable that when we do this show.
I love the bit in the beginning where the 8th Doctor calls himself a Bossy Boots. And now we're starting to get some answers as to what's going on and why the 11th Doctor has been trying to get in contact with all of his previous incarnations. Who would have guessed that the William Tell overture would be the one, would be the trigger for an alien attack? It could have been a worse song, like the Hamster Dance.
Oh God, no.
If anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, I've added a link in the email. You've been warned. I apologize now if this gets stuck in your head for some time. Are we going to actually play this? Is that why you turned up your volume?
I didn't turn up my volume.
I think we found our rollout music.
Okay, that's enough of that.
We'll make Glenn put that on.
Oh my God, you played that link in her email, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
I was in the bathroom and I heard the Hamster Dance.
There's our rollout sound music. I wonder if we're ever going to find out for sure what species of aliens we were dealing with by the time this saga ends. Love the turn of events at the end with Hammond and Charlie. The way they ended, I'm wondering if Hammond's not going to be making a return appearance. Even though we have just the movie to see the 8th Doctor in action on screen, the audios have really given the 8th life and fleshed out his character. I've listened to some of the 8th Doctor adventures for Big Finish, for example, The Blood of the Daleks 1 and 2, Horror of Glam Rock, Grand Theft Cosmos.
There's one called Grand Theft Cosmos.
I
love these names.
It is one of the best stories. Unfortunately, it's in the 8th Doctor run with the series part of it, and we can't get to it yet. I cannot wait for you guys to listen to that.
I've heard of Horror of Glam Rock, but I'd never heard of Grand Theft Cosmos. That's great.
Max Warp, and I've enjoyed them. I can't really pick a favorite audio out of the 8th Doctor main range and adventures that I've listened to, because there's always something that I come away with liking, even if the story wasn't exactly what I hoped it would be. I'll wrap it up here, hoping to hear your thoughts and everyone else's. Holly from Wisconsin.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Holly, and thanks for that earworm now.
All right, next up is Rachel.
Rachel writes, comment question, hello Vortex gang. Rachel here, thought I would drop you guys a line before I head off for my weekend away off the grid.
Apparently everybody's coming home from work. I apologize. My Sims are coming home from work.
We're going to take Glenn off the grid. Let me just say that my inner fangirl has been having squee moments left and right this week. Matt and Jenna are back and filming the Christmas special. Loved seeing pictures of the TARDIS and Clara with what seems to be a Christmas turkey. You have to wonder what the Doctor has done that is making Clara seem to rush around making sure they have Christmas dinner. Second, the various specials the BBC has planned for November have me really hoping BBC America also airs the specials, or that they're all made available on DVD. On a side note, I just listened to the podcast 109, where both Glenn and Keith said the BBC wasn't going to release any specials beyond the docudrama and the 50th anniversary episode, but Sean disagreed. Sean, gold star to you.
Now, wait a minute. She also clarified something this week that I hadn't brought up yet. The fact that I did, in fact, say that Matt should regenerate on the 50th anniversary.
I think she heard it wrong.
Nope. Nope. She qualified it. However, she did give you a gold star this week.
But I got a gold star this week.
You did prognosticate something that actually came true. So, good for you. There's a pat on the back.
I did right. And there they were, 4 white horses. Oh, the places my mind goes. She continues. Third, the anniversary special poster. Holy cow. I know it's not a trailer, but my squee level came close to topping out when it was released. I'm having fun watching fans, especially those on Tumblr, analyze the poster, picking out all the little details that they think are hinting toward what might be included in the plot. Personally, I'm trying to keep an open mind. We all know rule number 1 is Moffat lies. And therefore, everything I read, see, hear, I'm taking with a grain of salt.
Hear, hear.
Some may think I'm being a bit pessimistic.
No, you're being a Glenn.
You're being a grumpy bear.
That's not grumpy bear. That's just being Glenn.
That's being Glenn.
We coined the phrase grumpy bear because of you, though.
Yeah, but when I'm grumpy bear, I'm really grumpy bear. I'll admit when I'm grumpy bear. I'm not grumpy bear all the time. Just because I disagree with you doesn't mean I'm grumpy bear.
I think it was last week.
Especially if you disagree with both of us.
Yeah, that's the key.
Because commonly I'm only disagreeing with Sean.
Usually it's just
But
me.
then if it's both of you, it's grumpy bear.
See, you get the benefit of this because you work with him all week. So when we sat down, I'm purposely in between the two of you. So I'm the buffer for all of the stuff. He's frustrated at you with your work performance, pal. I haven't wanted to tell you this, but instead it all gets directed at me.
That's not true because it all trickles down to me at work. And I'm pretty grateful for a lot of the stuff he does at work.
You are.
It makes my job a little easier.
I think it was last week.
I think he knows that. I hope he knows that.
I do know that.
I think it was last week Chrissy had posted on Facebook that she was listening to our podcast, and she had made the comment, Glenn hates everything. I'm listening to Traveling the Vortex. Glenn hates everything. And I saw
Did you see the amendment, though?
I saw that post and went, oh, that's an even better episode title than Technical Difficulties. I'm glad Glenn changed it. And then I went and looked it up, and I was like, well, this still says Technical Difficulties.
But did you see the amendment afterwards?
Did you see the amendment, though?
I did. No, Glenn hates everything.
I can't remember exactly what she posted.
And convinces Sean to hate everything.
And convinces Sean to hate everything.
While Keith pops popcorn.
Well, Keith pops. I forgot about that, too. Well, Keith pops popcorn.
Oh, God. I'm being pessimistic. I call it being cautious. You can call it being Glenn. So when I see the 50th...
I like that. I like being cautious. I'm not pessimistic. I'm just cautious.
I'm being cautious. So when I see the 50th, I won't have any expectations that could be potentially dashed.
I think I was just saying that about 20 minutes ago.
I think you were. Fourth, the image of Peter Davison and Sylvester McCoy out of the BBC studio with signs, plus Peter Davison's comment about how he has a copy of the 50th script. I didn't mention it at the time because I know you guys don't normally talk about rumors, but a friend had also saw Peter Davison while he was here for Gen Con and said that Peter mentioned offhand that he had some sort of involvement in the 50th. My guess is that this is what he was referring to. I know fans are up in arms about the lack of classic Doctors in the 50th, and I think that Davison, McCoy, and Colin Baker are taking that and rolling with it, and the end result will be probably a funny skit of some sort that we'll see in November. Well, I think that's it for now. I'll talk to you guys when I'm back on the grid. Rachel.
Rachel, I knew there was a reason I liked you.
P.S. I had a potential...
We think alike.
Good God.
You know, she's also a huge Disney fan, too.
Run away. Run away. P.S. I had a potential series segment idea when I was leaving work the other day. I know that you guys have reviewed the Doctors Revisited specials and talked about the Doctors themselves and companions, but I think it would be fun if you guys did segments about the actors themselves. I know I could easily go online and read wiki entries and bios about each of the men that have played the Doctor, but I thought it would be fun to hear you guys talk about what you know about each actor beyond their time in the TARDIS. I don't know if that's something you'd want to do or the listeners would want to hear, but I thought I'd throw it out there. I'm a bit of a biohistory buff, so I love that sort of thing. P.P.S. New Harry Potter universe movie.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. Yeah, that's exciting.
You saw that news, right?
It's based on a book that some character wrote.
But J.K.'s penning it, so I'm okay with
but
that. I'm okay with that. Yeah, you don't like Harry Potter.
That's not. I do
You
like
hate Harry Potter.
I
You're
don't
just a
Harry-
Harry Potter hater. Back to
And of
listen.
the people
No,
sitting
wait.
at this table, I'm the only one that hasn't
Before we
read
get
them
away
all.
from this, I think that's a good idea, Rachel.
Vodka Farah.
That's not how you say it.
That's why I haven't killed you yet. Can't pronounce the damn thing.
Did you just wish him a vodka fairy?
Maybe.
No thanks. I'm having scotch.
In Soviet Russia, vodka drinks you.
No. Before we get away from this, let's put that in the idea pile because we're going to run out of shows to review eventually, and we're going to need more topics for our show down the line. We won't get to that. We won't get down there.
Well, we're not going to run out because they just found 90 of them in Africa. So.
We're going to get down that road soon, though, Rachel, but it'll be down the road. So that's a great idea. I'm glad that you mentioned it. We'll put that in we have an idea box that we keep here of things that, and Sean tends to throw the box away every once in a while. We have to refill it, but that is a good idea. That's something that we can do.
Trip over it.
That's one thing that we can do later down the road. Well, obviously we're still trying to keep through all of the episodes that exist. So,
well, I read that and I thought about it. It was like, I don't know what I know that they've done outside of. I mean, well, okay, Tom Baker. I know he did that one episode of Remington Steele where he played the bad guy. He was the bad guy in that Golden Voyage of Sinbad movie.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Thank you. I was really trying to forget that one.
Now, here's the thing.
He was in the Elf King in Dungeons and Dragons.
Rachel, we aren't quite as knowledgeable as Wiki.
Yeah.
But we do like to chime
from
in
an
on
American
the things
standpoint
that we do know about. So we could certainly do that.
Sylvester McCoy was in The Hobbit.
I think that's something we certainly could search out and give.
And apparently, it was almost a Bond.
I think maybe that might be the way to go. Yeah, exactly. He got beat out by Timothy Dalton apparently. I think that's a route we could go, though, is maybe pick a few of these projects that they have done outside of Who, watch those, and talk about the
and Peter Davison was in All Creatures Great and Small, which I used to watch on BBC, on
PBS.
Thank you, on that one.
I only ever caught one episode of that show.
Yeah, I didn't watch
Back
much
then,
of it, but
I've seen more recently. But
I didn't watch much of it, but I did watch it. I think my grandmother watched it quite a bit too. But
he would probably be one of the few ones that's more after than before.
But great idea.
Great idea. That's about my knowledge of what they've done.
And I'm as excited about a new Harry Potter universe movie. We have to say universe because it's 70 years before Harry. But
all right. So it's become Star Wars. We're going to do prequels now.
Well, did you see that?
I'm fine with it since
JK
is penning it because it's still her idea, her universe. Oh yeah, George wrote the prequels too, didn't he?
And Into Darkness is a remake of Wrath of God.
Did you see that
I knew
the
that Darkness
episodes
I didn't realize it was
9
the
are going
third
to be
until
origin stories?
I'm sorry, say that one more
The
time.
non 7, 8, and 9 movies for Star Wars, they've pretty much confirmed that they're going to be origin movies, quote unquote.
Actually, that was debunked this week.
Was it debunked again? Because I didn't see the debunk.
Origins of what?
Characters.
Somebody made
Who cares?
It'll be origins of new characters, is
Of new
what they were
characters?
saying. Yeah, because they pretty much said
I saw
you can't
Origins, and I was like, okay, whatever.
Luke, Leia, and Han back to do the movies and then do an origin movie.
Well, no. There was I didn't read the article, so I don't know. I just assumed it went back to the original theory that it was going to be a Boba Fett movie.
Oh, that's the
still,
in-between films,
yeah,
and those are
that's
still...
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, those are still...
The non-7, 8, and 9 movies
yes.
are going to be...
I didn't hear you say non.
The
non-7, 8, and 9 movies are going to be...
I got it now, yes.
That was also said this week, is that they were... Yeah,
Yeah.
that those would be origin characters.
So we're going back to prequels for Star Wars, too.
Well, it's not technically prequels, it's kind of like offshoot stories.
It depends on the characters.
Sorry.
Listen and listen well, all of you within the sound of my voice. I don't want a Boba Fett origin. What makes Boba Fett cool is that we don't know anything about him.
He was never cool.
If you want to do a Boba Fett movie...
Oh, Boba Fett was cool until
in
Attack
Empire
of the
Strikes
Clones.
Back.
Yeah. Well, even in...
That's the only time it's cool.
Return of the
You
Jedi
want to
was
do a
cool,
Boba
too.
Fett
even
movie?
with
Punk.
Even with his poor dispatch.
He goes out as a punk.
Do
He's
a Boba
punk
Fett
the entire
movie.
time.
Just do a standalone Boba Fett hunting some guy down movie. Fine. Fantastic. Bring it on. I don't want to know otherwise. Okay, I've said it.
Chrissy writes, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. That was her, what do you call that line?
Subject line.
Subject line. I can't remember subject. Dear Vortex Boys, Prisoners of Time number 8. Grace! Yay! That was my first reaction to reading this comic. Yes, I know we got the news months ago and that Grace Holloway would be in an installment of Prisoners of Time, but it was also so cool to actually see it happen. 8 has had so many different companions in the novels and audios, but it's good to see him and Grace back together. And the story is quite good, too. Oh, boy. It sounds like... It sounds like something Big Finish would do. A medieval peasant society living alongside a more advanced alien race that takes the peasant children at random for their own nefarious purposes. And I love alien races that take peasant... Wait, no, I'm sorry. And I love that Grace... Sorry, I skipped back up the line. And I love that Grace hijacks one of the overseer's crafts. It seems like something she'd do. Grace had some fantastic moments in this. Then it was a bit of a surprise, considering the Doctor hasn't... I can see Sean's reactions over here. I know. Sorry. Considering the Doctor hasn't interfaced much with the shadowy character who's been kidnapping all the companions, and while we get this moment at the end, we still don't know very much about him. And it lets the overarching plot move forward, and that's pretty good. All in all, this was a very fun story and an enjoyable read. Now, my question is this. If IDW could get the rights to Grace, will Big Finish get them soon, too? Or was that just something IDW wanted to do since their Doctor Who contract was up, and they decided to do whatever they wanted since they were losing the license? I'm curious about how this whole thing happened, but that's another topic for
That would be
day.
a really interesting
That's going to be a topic for when we discuss this comic book, because I'm going to bring that up as well.
What are they going to do? Take her licensing away? Screw it. Put Grace in there.
Destiny the Doctor's enemy aliens. I'm so used to India Fisher playing Charlie in the audios that it's strange to hear her adopt a more level tone as the narrator. I thought so too. I probably feel this way because I've heard all the other companion actors who've done these audios in interviews and DVD commentaries, which aren't actually acting their parts. I think that sentence makes sense. Having said that, I thought she did a great job going between all the different characters she's voicing, plus narrating the story. As far as the story goes, I like how this one gets set in motion by the 11th Doctor's message in time, sort of like the Space Buffalo episode. Unlike Space Buffalo, this story is actually pretty good. Well, I liked it anyway. There's some mystery with the original message getting scrambled a bit, so it's more of a role in the story, and I like that a lot. It adds to the overall story arc that's going on in these audios, which is always a good thing. Also, this is probably the first time I've heard the entire Big Finish 8th Doctor theme tune. There's a big swooping sound at the beginning of the theme tune in this audio that I've never heard before. Just making a note of that. 8th Doctor retrospective. Does the 8th Doctor really have such an era as such? Or I read that wrong. Does the 8th Doctor have an era as such? I mean, he was on TV for that one night in 1996, but he's had tons of the novels and comics and audios, and the audios are still ongoing. So it's hard to pin down just one era for him. For my part, I love the 8th Doctor. Because he's been in so many different media, it seems like he gets to encompass all the other versions of the Doctor that came before him, but he's still his own unique personality. Like all the other Doctors blended together to create a balanced persona, and the result was 8. I mentioned this a little in my 8th Doctor reviews for my library in the TARDIS posts, but I would love to see them bring back Paul McGann in a short spin-off TV miniseries. Here's the post that I mentioned briefly at the end. I'm copying now because I might forget. I don't want it to supplement the main show, but just a 5 or so episode flashback type special just to give 8 a few more TV stories. Maybe have Mark Gatiss or Paul Cornell or even Nicholas Briggs write it. I'm just throwing ideas out there. Well, they all listen to the show, Chrissy, so they might pick up on that.
Hopefully.
The more I listen to the Big Finish audios especially, the more I hate the fact that Paul McGann only got one TV story. He's just so darn good. I don't know how they would go about making an 8th Doctor miniseries for TV, if the BBC would even be open for doing something like that. But it's something somebody ought to look into if they haven't already. Or maybe I'm just being the petulant fangirl and wishing for something that there wouldn't be a real interest in anyway. Either way, I want more 8th Doctor. Maybe I should just read the books and be happy with that. All right, I'm done for another week. Have a good one, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Chrissy. P.S. Keith, what do you have against Napoleon Dynamite? I love Napoleon Dynamite. Granted, it's full of a lot of humor that's unique to the Intermountain West, and it's considered a hometown cult classic in Utah and Idaho, but it's just a lot of fun. Oh well, To each their own.
It's not for me, not my kind of humor. That's all it is to it.
Chrissy, I liked it.
It's not for you.
It's not for me.
I wouldn't link it in there with Flash Gordon like you had said last week, but I liked it. I thought it was a great movie.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
It was funny. Funny as hell.
Funny and great movie do not equal the same thing.
It was funny as hell. Well, enjoying it with a lot of people and enjoying a movie is not the same either.
I never said it was. I just said
that was Sean.
That was me. I watched it when I had a lot of people around, and actually may have been a little tipsy because we were having a Christmas party at the time when we brought that one home.
Let's bounce through these because
really enjoyed it.
We've got a lot to do.
But I wouldn't
have a half
rewatch
hour
it.
to do them because we're at 2:30 right now.
Well, you've been talking too much, Grumpy Bear.
What do we want to start with? Audio?
Yep.
All right. Enemy aliens. 1935. A message from a Time Lord in trouble sends the 8th Doctor and Charlie Pollard to the streets of London's West End in search of a mysterious alien adversary, unaware that something monstrous is already on their trail.
Dun, dun, dun!
Oh, good. I was hoping that you weren't over there queuing up the Price is Right. Price is Right. Price is Right.
The Lords of Lighthorn. No, I liked this one.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one as well. Not as good as Shockwave, but a very enjoyable story.
It's a nice return from Space Buffalo.
It was a nice return from Space Buffalo.
I guess we did.
We had Shockwave between. Yeah. Oh, Shockwave was still fantastic. I mean, that was above and beyond this one even. But this was an enjoyable story, and I thought India Fisher did a fantastic job. With the exception is, I think I'm coming down on the side that I just didn't like her 8th Doctor. I don't think the inflections that were
sometimes it was right, sometimes it wasn't.
He seemed a little grumpy bear when she did it, and I've never thought that he, with the exception of a few times when it's appropriate.
Yeah,
he's never that negative throughout an audio. Now, he's not written negatively, but the way that she somehow does the intonation comes across negative. So that's what that's
okay.
Really the only thing I argue against this. I enjoyed the story.
I have a big problem with the end of it.
I love the okay.
The doctor at the end of it.
I love the intrigue. I like the mystery that's going on here. I like the way they build this story. I didn't know this guy was crooked all the way from the beginning. I do like the fact that it ends up being this like Nazi spy game that's going on here. That was cool. I like the turn of events that the old ladies really aren't part of this spy network. They're actually playing for the good guys.
I thought it was very 8th Doctor of him down in the pit trying to save him and being oblivious to everything else going on around.
I think the 8th Doctor is written very 8th Doctor. I just didn't prefer her performance of it.
Except I don't know if I agree with even the 8th Doctor standing back and letting her just attack and try to kill what's-his-face at the end. Of him just being like, go get him. Sick him, Charlie.
But it wasn't, yeah.
It came across as...
if she knew that he was a threat as far as death to him, she wouldn't have let him. Or he wouldn't have let her. But I think it was more of a... I think he gets his comeuppings now. And I think that was more of a...
I don't know.
I think that I was fine with that because of that.
I didn't like that part of it. That was the only part I really didn't like about the story. Other than the kind of... Well, no, that was pretty much the only thing I didn't like about the story.
The other thing that I find is a lot of times in these stories we find the Doctor himself being kind of put off on other tangents or other areas, or something else is happening to the Doctor, so that we can focus on the companion, which makes sense because the companion is, or the actress or actor is the one telling the story, and so we tend to try to focus around the companion a little more. And this one seemed to really put the Doctor in these off situations.
Well, he's gone for a large section of it.
But it works really, really well in the way they do it. And I love the fact that they keep being separated and coming together in these ways that you just really... They're really kind of serendipitous. You know what I mean? It's really the way that it feels, is every time that they come back together, it's really this like serendipitous re-meeting of each other. And it's like, wow, how did you get here? Well, this is because his events went this way and her events went this way, and they have kind of intersected, and it's almost like they're meant to be together at these certain points. So I thought that was enjoyable.
When she was on the train looking for some place to hide, and she saw the
and
coffin.
He's in the coffin.
And I thought to myself, the doctor's probably in the coffin. I mean, that's where I'd hide if I was. That's totally a Doctor Hiding Place. The lid opens up and he does the Frankenstein origin.
Yeah.
Oh, he is in the coffin. I mean, just.
So leaping from the train was a bit abrupt, but I liked that. I mean, it made sense for what he needed to do to kind of distract them and basically take the heat or attention off of Charlie at that point. But
I think Charlie is one of the great characters that can truly carry a story by herself. I would listen to some Charlie Adventures if it was just her. But I think this was a good representation of Charlie also for those who maybe haven't listened to Big Finish and this is their first introduction to Charlie.
See, and there's one other problem that I have with this is it was enjoyable for me who has listened to Big Finish and is familiar to Charlie, but if you're marketing this thing to bring people that are not necessarily Big Finish listeners, it was very heavy-handed with a lot of Charlie's background without explaining a lot of Charlie's background.
Maybe because I knew his background.
There were these heavy mentions. Well, that's just it. I think I tried to go into this with if I were a fan that came to this and hadn't listened to any Eighth Doctor Adventures with Big Finish and decided, hey, there's these audio adventures here, I felt like they kept dropping a lot of Charlie's past in there without really explaining for the new listener as to what her background really truly was.
See, I felt
I had a problem with that.
But gave enough to also intrigue you to, I wonder what that was.
Well,
I
guess I'm coming from a marketing perspective that I was shocked that they used Charlie in the first place. This really needed to be a great story if you're coming from that perspective, trying to hook people that are just really television fans, and they thought, well, there's these audios, because all the other audios follow right in suit to. I mean, you could make all of the past audios be television adventures because you've got the companions are very familiar to the people that just watch the TV series. Then you bring India Fisher in, who did a fantastic job, and it's a wonderful story. But if you're bringing those fans in, and then suddenly you've thrown at them exclusively Eighth Doctor, and I'm sure they were tied based on some sort of rights, but when you just exclusively throw them you throw them an exclusive Big Finish audio companion, I just felt that they didn't give me enough backstory to hook me into wanting to go listen to some more Paul McGann stories, or to find out who this Charlie Pollard really was. I just felt they fell down there. Now, I enjoyed it because I knew who she was. I knew the backstory. So I was squeeing at the moments when they talked about the airship, the R101. All of the little things that she had talked about having gone through with the Doctor, which I get the impression this is before the Divergent Universe. This is placed early on in Charlie's story. But I like those. Those were little moments for me going, ooh, yeah, I know about this. It was little hints to me. But I did have to take the other side of that, look at it as, if I were coming to this having not known any of Charlie's backstory, there wasn't enough there for this to be standalone for as far as what she was talking about and go, oh, okay, that makes sense. I can see that she was clearly had this in her past and whatnot. They didn't do it enough for me. But
I can see that, but I don't think Grace would have worked.
Well,
either.
I don't think you could have done Grace in this story.
Not in this story.
I think this was solely written around Charlie and done and they did a good job. Don't get me wrong. But I think that they, from the perspective of trying to sell this to people that have never listened to the audio,
I can see what you're saying from
it
marketing
needed to be more.
standpoint. Yes, I can see what you're saying.
I'm always looking at things as that's probably my downfall. Is I'm always trying to look at things of how to build more fans into Doctor Who, and if you make one misstep in one area, then it's more of a turn off than it is a turn on, and that's why sometimes I go to these things and I say, from a fan perspective, from a looking at it from like a new Who perspective, from looking at it from a classic viewer perspective, from looking at it from exclusively from different directions, I think maybe in the back of my head I'm always trying to figure out how do you hook new people into this series and what's the best way to do it, and I think this was a poor way to do it.
I think I can understand that. I think if you look at something like you have to toe the line when you do these things. Like you go into the first X-Files movie, and it's a continuation. It's set right after the 5th season. So if you've been watching and you've got 5 years under your belt, and then you go to the movie, you are instinctively sitting there waiting for the cringe moment, which is we're going to stop everything we're doing and we're going to explain to you as succinctly we can who these people are, why you should care, and why you spent $8 to come see them on the big screen. And then we're going to move on. And you can only hope that as a fan, you can only hope that moment comes and is done in such a way that you're okay with it. And whether it's X-Files or Star Trek or whatever, that you just know that moment's coming. And I think with this one, I thought they did a very fine job of giving us the info dump information for Charlie's I was supposed to have died on the R101, and, well, maybe I shouldn't be telling you this. And, you know, the way that was kind of parceled out throughout the adventure to kind of fill in the backstory. And I thought very well written, too. I loved the cadence of the writing and the way that India delivered it.
The cadence was well done, yes.
You know, there were a lot of... not necessarily alliteration, but a lot of, I don't know, maybe I'm tooting my own horn, but hearing her read this, it sounded like something that I would write. This is what my writing reminds me of when I'm hearing it in my head, is what I'm trying to say.
I think that also is another problem I had with a story, is because I know Charlie as well as I do, it seemed very out of character to her to spill her guts the way she did.
Yeah, in a way, but at the same time, it's like
for a new listener that was necessary.
Yeah, that's kind of that moment.
It felt out of character unless this is very, very, very early on.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So, but there was that. I loved the story arc itself. I thought was really well done. I loved the fact that there were Nazis, and that this wasn't just a plot. And then I loved the twist that we got. That no, there were actually some aliens here. That it's not just the spy ring. Which you kind of, when they're doing the big spy reveal, you almost kind of forget that very, you know, fantastically well done opening bit about the 4 lads who ran off into the night. Only one made it, and he's now insane.
Right.
You know, just wow, that's a good open. You know, you hooked me with that. So I like the fact that they managed to toe the line between both of those worlds and give us an adventure that fit. And that it wasn't just because I was really worried that it was just going to be forsaking one for the sake of the other, and that it wasn't going to work.
I think it does. It
does.
I think it fits well, and I think it fits well in the universe that's established. So I agree, and I enjoyed it because of that, for that same reason.
I liked her inflections. Again, not necessarily perfect, not spot on, but I thought there was enough of the tonal qualities of the way Paul plays the Doctor. But, again, that's coming at it from somebody who knows what to expect. If I came into this without any knowledge of who Paul McGann was, you're right, I would probably think he was a little older and a little grumpier.
I would expect you'd come with the movie Paul, and if you came with movie Paul, you wouldn't have gotten
you wouldn't have gotten
the same thing. Can I say that, interestingly enough, This seems strange because she's worked with Paul so much and knows his Doctor. She was a spot-on 11th Doctor when she's doing the audio.
Yes.
Everybody has done a fantastic job. It's whoever's writing the overall arc, I think, has to be writing his lines, because it's been the inflection and the way they have each actor speak every story. Doesn't matter.
Is that solely because it's written in such a way that's easy to do, or is it because they're very familiar because they all have been watching Matt Smith most recently?
It could be both.
Because India hasn't done a 8th Doctor story for a long time, so she's a bit removed, but maybe she's more fresh in her mind with the 11th Doctor.
That's very possible. I don't know how big of viewers Richard Franklin are, but
it gives me an impression that they must have. Maybe they've prepared themselves by watching an episode and getting a feel of Matt Smith at the very least.
But everyone's done a fantastic job.
Everybody's done a fantastic. But yeah,
there's never a question of who's talking when it's
exactly. Every time the 11th Doctor is in one of these stories, it's no question that it's the 11th Doctor.
And going back to the grumpiness during that part, though, that's totally how the Eighth Doctor would have been petulant about it. It's like, oh, great, I've got voicemail. I've got, it's
I agree there.
One of my former selves.
I agree there, and that's one of those...
And so he plays it, see, I told you,
And that's one of those times that I think that's a true character of that Doctor, of the Eighth Doctor at that point.
Yeah.
But there are other points where she just, it's very...
So, yeah, some of the later bits when they're on the run and they're going to...
And he should be that more... enjoying the adventure, and he doesn't seem to be. And the Eighth Doctor always seems to be enjoying the adventure. You know what I mean?
That I can agree with.
Okay. But a terrific story. I mean, it's really well written. It doesn't leave any loose ends. I can see Keith's issue with the end, but I still step back to the Eighth Doctor wouldn't let Charlie do anything that Charlie couldn't have been too vicious, and so it was more of a just kind of sicking him on him for what he deserved at that point.
Even if the Doctor had said, sick him, Charlie, and she'd said, sick him, boy, I don't think either of them would have imagined that this thing would have lunged and gone over the railing.
As soon as I don't know, either he was going to be ripped to shreds or they're going off the roof.
No, see,
those were the only two options I saw.
I think that's the point, though. I think Sean's right. Is I don't think that he saw what was going to happen ultimately happen, and so that might have been part of the reason why he sicked the alien thing on there.
It did. I mean, okay, we saved the guy. But we lost the alien, which...
that was my thought, too.
That kind of sucked.
That was even more so of a surprise, is the fact that... I mean, I keep thinking of it as a dog, but...
Essentially it was.
And that's the interesting bit of this, is... So... it created this nice little... Okay, we wrapped up that particular story arc in a nice, neat bow, because now we don't have this thing roaming around on Earth to deal with, and we're not going to have to take it back and deal with it, and it's just... Okay, it's done.
I almost thought they were going to go with another Ramsey.
Well, and that lends to your surprise about it because of the fact that even when Ramsey was being so vicious and violent, the Doctor still had a lot of compassion for him.
But then, on the flip side of that, there's this old adage. I think it's Shane.
The movie?
Yeah.
Come back, Shane. Shane.
Is there a dog in Shane?
Come back. I don't remember. I just remember the kid.
There's an old Western, and this is kind of one of those movie tropes, but it's very true with American stories as well. But there's this old Western, and you've watched. The body count is enormous. People die. Bam, bam, bam. The bad guys are shooting everybody up. The town's being shot up. The good guy comes out, gets shot up, and you just kind of sit there, and it just washes over you. And then there's a moment where the villain shoots the dog. And there's an audible from the audience because suddenly this dog's life has been given more value than all of the human lives that have been wasted in this film.
I don't think it was Shane.
And it's maybe it's not Shane, but it's one of those.
I don't remember a dog in Shane. Of course, it's been a few years since I've seen Shane.
So maybe it's not Shane, but anyway. That's almost kind of the reaction you got to this, that it didn't matter that we've killed these 4 youth or these 3 youths and left one insane at the beginning of the
suddenly
story.
We've killed the dog.
That we've got the spy things, that we've got this going on, and that all of these people have, the bad things. That we shot William Tell on stage, for Pete's sake. And all of this happened with very little reaction. But then all of a sudden, the dog-like creature goes over the edge, and it's like, oh, I can't believe that they did that.
Monster.
And the Doctor's being horrible. So maybe that ties into that. I don't know. But I think it's an interesting psychological thing that they did to us. Because I agree with you. I don't think it was intended that way. And again, maybe these are my rose-colored glasses coming out, and I'm always trying to defend the Doctor, but I don't think it was intended that I don't think he actively thought this is going to wrap up my problem in a nice, neat little bow. We'll kill the monster. But ultimately it did happen, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. And then the Doctor was like, oh, Charlie, come and see, come and look. And he was very joyful about it, and she was like, no, I don't want to come look. And the guy's hanging there, and it's supposed to be kind of that joke moment at the end of the... Yeah. And I didn't get that reaction from it. So I kind of side with you, Keith, on this one because of that part of it.
It does leave it kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
And then we fly off, and everything's happy again. It's kind of like, okay.
It almost feels like that is added in to lift the weightiness of what has just happened too.
Maybe.
Did you get the impression
Yeah.
maybe that was like added?
It could be.
to
Well,
kind of-
the hanging on at the end.
yeah,
the
like
jokiness of
that.
it, yeah.
Perhaps the writer went. Maybe that was a little bit too heavy-handed. Maybe I should lighten it up a little bit.
I could
and
see that. Very
show
much.
you that he's not.
But at the same time, if you're going to, if the dramatic ending of your piece has your characters on a rooftop, somebody's going over the edge. That's
Good point.
That's the only way to end it.
There's a gun in Act 1.
It's got to be fired before the end of Act 2.
It's one of those rules. Anything else about the story?
No, enjoyable story. Not as good as some, but better than others, in my opinion.
I would agree.
I would put it in the top ranks of the ones we've listened to. I mean,
Third,
that's it.
I think I'd mark it third or maybe fourth.
I'd probably put it 4th.
What's your number one again?
My number
Battlesphere?
one is still Battlesphere.
And
My second is Shockwave.
Shockwave too.
I think I would put this. This definitely would be under those two.
Yeah, I think
I come down on the second Doctor story, maybe even higher than this one. Just part of that's because of the performance. We
Just
talked about
because,
that
yeah.
last week. but-
We talk about it every time.
As we talk about it
Rank
every
things.
time we do one of these, it's Fraser Hines was so good.
as the second Doctor, he was also good as Jamie, but he was really, really good as the second.
And good as the narrator.
Yeah.
And Zoe, really, I thought.
No, see, that was the only one that I had trouble with.
I could still tell it was Zoe.
I could tell it was Joey. I can't
Zoe.
talk tonight. Yeah, what's this Scotch? I don't even know. No, I really could tell it was Zoe, but it wasn't quite there for me. But yeah, just phenomenal for everybody else. Now I'm going back. And then there was that part in the second Doctor story that was just phenomenal. I'm going back and reviewing the second Doctor story.
Do you remember when this happened? That was awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. All right, well, let's move on to the comic book.
Prisoners of Time.
Do you have a synopsis?
No. We haven't had those for any of these.
We haven't had those for any of them?
Nope. Why, do you have a synopsis?
No.
No.
I don't have synopses. I thought maybe you had a synopsis.
He's Googling
What?
He's Googling pictures of Benton.
Yeah,
I am
I saw
Googling
that.
pictures of Ben.
I think he's trying to find which picture he's going to have Ian Levy.
Sorry.
Yeah, I am. So no synopses?
No synopses.
Okay, then. I was trying to decide how strongly I wanted to go with it, and it wasn't really up until that moment when you said, I thought you were looking up the horn over there for the other one.
Because you knew that's where I came down on.
That I thought to myself, yeah, that's really where I do come down on this comic. Okay, where to start?
The Pizza Moon Guy?
I think that's a little rough, but I wouldn't have given it a dun 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 at all.
Here's I will freely admit that part of the problem may be mine, because I was so hyped and looking forward to the Eighth Doctor comic.
You got Glenn syndrome on
I
that
got
one.
Glenn syndrome. I didn't allow
expected
yeah.
too much. Your
I
expectations
should have had Glenn
shot way
syndrome.
up here, and then you went... No, because that's one of my faults. Because as much of a pessimist as I am, I set my expectations too high when I go into certain media, especially when it's media that I enjoy or media that I think is going to be phenomenal. And then I set my expectations so high that it's an even further fall when it's. I mean, even if when it's a decent story, I've set it so high that I fall to that decent level that I feel like it's tragic, that it's bad.
I think it's a decent story.
You go first then, because I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick it apart.
Let me start by saying the premise is intriguing.
Of the alien
No.
planet stuff?
The premise of the whole story
No.
is intriguing. It's not good.
No.
It's
Keith, go first.
intriguing.
I also it felt very rushed, but I was okay with the Doctor lands on a planet. Oh, they're taking our children away. Well, that doesn't seem right.
Trope.
It's a trope, yes, but when doesn't Doctor Who have tropes? I mean,
No, I know, but
I expect tropes
no.
from Doctor
I'm sorry.
Who.
The resolution is intriguing. That's what I meant. Not the
See, I didn't like the idea of the Doctor was
not
just
the
like,
premise.
I'm gonna scratch you, and then tell everyone what happened, and that makes them just go away. It didn't feel like the weight of actually what was going on.
Well,
was part of the
that's the only thing that
resolution.
worked for me. I thought, well, I was grateful that he had a reason to run these guys off.
Well, I was glad he had a reason. I think the fact that they ran off so easily, I felt, was just way too. Oh wait, we're getting near the end of our pages. We gotta.
Okay.
really, I was okay with most of the
ending
story.
of this is what I didn't have a problem with. But go ahead.
Another thing, it's an okay story.
Don't backpedal now. You liked it.
trope.
Go.
It's filled with tropes, and I'm okay with that.
They're taking the children.
Oh, yes. Really, and the thing I'm probably going to come down on that you guys might not is I think Grace needs to stick to just the movie.
That was another thing that I set my expectations way too high for.
See, she's, I don't know if I want to go to you. I'm getting... Which the introduction was going to all the different planets. I thought was kind of cool. Of him going, okay, look at all these cool, peaceful places we could go. And her getting space sick. I'm like, okay, take me home. And he doesn't.
That seemed very Grace to me.
Yes.
Will give you that.
And she seems very Grace to the entire time. And that's why she's great as the companion in the movie. But I don't think she would make a good companion on the TARDIS. It's not in her character. Sean doesn't agree. I
don't agree with you either. I think she could be fantastic in the right story.
They would have to completely change her character. Why would they not have to change her character?
I'm waiting.
She's not made for... She says so in the story. She's not made for all the adventure, all the hubbub. She went into it, but she can't truly handle it.
It's an excuse. It's an excuse not to be able to use her in further stories.
It felt very in character for her. I thought she felt out of place through most of the adventure.
I'll agree with.
I'll agree with you too.
She is Grace and being Resistance, and then they land, and then she's not Grace anymore. And then
here's the problem. Here's the problem with that, Keith.
She's not Grace if she's off doing these other things.
If Grace had not encountered the end part of the film, had the end part of the film happened where she entered the TARDIS, where she became the heroine that she became, had she not died, had she not saved the Doctor initially, had she been the Grace up until there, this Grace would have fit in her character. But Grace, at some point in that movie, changes. She becomes a different person. Even though she decides not to leave with him and go on adventures with him, it's more of a Donald Noble thing to me, where she's just not quite ready for it. But at the point that she finally does go with him, I think that she would have been fine, even at the end of that film, going on with him and having adventures. The problem is we get the Grace from the first third or 2/3 of the movie.
That's how they wrote her the entire time.
Exactly, and that's a problem because she should have grown past the point in the movie where everything happens and she becomes really the hero of the film. And so suddenly we're getting the Grace that goes back to the beginning of this movie, and that's what I have the biggest problem about. Is Grace is not the Grace that evolves in the film. Grace is not where she comes from beginning to end. We don't pick up with that Grace, and we should have. We should have picked up with a different Grace. But we're getting that same Grace who is a bit flaky, is a bit unsure of herself, is a bit questionable. She's not that brave soul that could take on anything and hotwire the TARDIS, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
We don't have that Grace in this story, and that's what's the problem with this story.
Yeah.
What's the problem with this story.
Okay, I would give you that, the way it's written. Because reading this, I didn't remember the last part of the movie. I remembered the first part.
You have been further removed.
Yeah, it's been
from
further
the film
removed since I've seen it, so that's why I thought she didn't fit for the story. Because it was that first part that you talked about.
Yeah, and that's the thing you probably remember the most because it is 2/3 of the movie. That's her being very resistant to what's going on, and just kind of she in this is, to me, she's the Grace that got on the back of that motorcycle and went all the way to the clock. It's that very okay. I'm just kind of going along for the ride. I'm gonna agree with what's going on here. I'm gonna kind of play along with what's going on here, but it's not that really strong character that we finally get at the end of the movie that we should have just kind of gone on from there. And
maybe that's the bigger problem of this story, is it's a rehashing of the character as opposed to continuing
growing the character. Yeah. I'm going to start.
So now I can't. I don't know if.
Oh, now I've made somebody else hate something.
No. Now I have to go back and say I don't. Now I'm not sure about Grace as a companion. if she's not written this way, she'd probably make a pretty good companion.
Agreed. If she's not written the way she is in this,
Yes.
she would make
As
a
of this,
fantastic
she's a
companion.
terrible companion.
Yeah, agreed. I think Grace in this is way too flaky. She's way too flaky. She's not the strong companion that she should be. It's almost like they attempt for her to be the strong companion later, but it does. It's far too late, and it doesn't quite get there.
Yeah. Even after she steals the...
I gotta
thingy.
throw this out first because this shouldn't be an issue for me. But the artwork in this, I know we've been trying not to dog on the artwork because of the fact, but when the artwork becomes distracting from the story, then it's wrong. It's wrong. This artwork reminds me of Sunday Funnies. And I'm not talking about Brenda Starr and Dick Tracy. I'm talking about Hagar the Horrible and Peanuts. It's that kind. And there's nothing wrong with Hagar the Horrible and Peanuts, but that's because they're 3-panel strips. They are...
It's Hagar.
It is. They are 3-panel strips. And that's the problem with this, is that the artwork feels a little bit Gru the Wanderer, but Gru the Wanderer had better storylines. So you're almost forgiving for that Sunday morning comic art in those stories. This just, you're establishing this universe in which you've got this serious story going on, and you don't have the comic book or the Sunday morning comics feel to it, but you have the Sunday morning comics artwork to it. And God bless that artist for taking whatever artistic approach he wanted to take on it.
I don't think he took that much of an artistic approach, unfortunately.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It's too simplistic. It's too whimsical.
I've seen online, it's very much what I've seen of 8th Doctor comics, what they look like.
Mm.
No?
Not at all. No,
I could have sworn I've seen some.
No. Because I've read 8 Doctor comics from the ones that have appeared in Doctor Who Weekly or Doctor Who Monthly. I've read the compilations, not all, but some of the compilations up to certain periods, and they're not. It is not that comic booky, or that. Excuse me, I'm saying comic booky. It's not comic booky. It's
cartoony.
It's cartoony. No, I'm sorry, it is not.
It's not? Okay. I thought I had seen somewhere that it looked like that.
No, and if that's what they were attempting to achieve, was that
See,
look
it almost looks like, I don't know where this came from. That's very, I think, very...
No, that's not what
That's not an actual...
That is a spoof comic is what that is, yeah. So...
And maybe I've only seen the spoof
comics. No. I think the story's weak. There's a trope. Now, when I said that the premise is intriguing, that's not right. I did like the fact that we have these aliens... I didn't like it, but I mean the premise of the fact that we have these aliens that are basically using kids to extend their lives, to be immortal, to heal themselves.
I think that's
that was an interesting premise. I just don't think they really got there with it, is the problem. I don't think it hits home. I don't think
they were too busy having Grace being flaky to
that's just it. We have this really light story going on through this to have this really heavy idea at the end. It's like we drop this big A-bomb on you at the end, but we've been all fun and light and whimsical and weird and flaky all through the story until the end, and then we drop this really heavy bomb on you, but then we don't really go anywhere with it because, yeah, he does dispatch the aliens easily, but I do like that because to me that's very much in character of the 8th Doctor. So that's the one thing that I like, is the fact that he references the scratch, and that's how he figures out what's going on, and then saying that he's going to kind of reveal this, and once the peasants rise up against them, they would have no defense because any little scratch would be detrimental to them. Yeah, I'd run if I realized that. Yeah. Absolutely, that would be. Oh yeah,
I guess I'd just rather see the peasants start to rise up.
Well,
instead of just the threat of them doing it.
I don't think it needed to. I think the threat was sufficient enough for these people who have a really, really severe weakness, and I think they drove that home. That's the only redeeming quality of this, though. The story is really kind of flighty throughout the whole thing. I don't feel invested in any of the characters, even the kids that are going to be taken, because
until they're taken, you don't feel any remorse for these kids yet at all. And so that's a problem, and that's really late in the game. It's not until we have this whole exposition from the parents as to what's going on here, until finally they come to take them away. And that seems very sudden and abrupt, and I realize it's a comic book, and it has to be done that way, but it really felt obvious, and so I had a problem with that as well. So most of this story I don't like. The end, the dispatching, and the idea of why they're doing what they're doing makes sense, and that was the only slightly redeeming quality. But that's where I fall down on this. It's just not. It's not good. It's not the best part of this whole thing. Not to mention, we've been so heavy relying or heavy dropping who this mysterious person is, and then suddenly we get way far away from that again, and we just have...
We got decently far away from it last week, didn't we?
Well,
Or last month.
Well, I guess we kind of did, and I think that's where
seven.
I think I had a problem with that as well. Is it seemed like we were evolving this storyline and making it broader, and then suddenly we're de-evolving again, so that we have something to reveal later on down in the line. And I think that's
but the ironic thing was, I think you had a problem with the sixth one because it would help too heavily with the overall story instead of the main story.
Well, it wasn't so much
pleasing.
that. No. I'm going to agree with you there, but that's just it. Is if you're going to go that direction, don't start backing up and doing your stories in such a way that, I mean, if you're going to broaden that much, don't start to squeeze it down again because you feel like you're giving too much away before we get to the end of this run. So that, yes, I have a problem with that, because if we would have stayed consistent through all of the stories,
they have needed to stay consistent.
that's my problem with it. That's
And
why
the problem-
That's why I had a problem with that in 6, is because there wasn't consistency.
I think that's
so
more the
now
problem.
six has finally widened that up, and we're starting to focus on the story of what's going on here.
6 is more the problem than 8.
Well, but we're starting to broaden that out,
But that's
and then
the only
suddenly
instance.
on 7 we start to squeeze that down, and 8 we feel we've squeezed it down even more and didn't touch on it hardly at all. That's the problem I have with it, is we're not being consistent.
That's
So
a bigger problem
it's
with the
not there
arc
in
than you
this
can
story.
blame for the
Well,
individual issues.
I'll concur with that. You're right, and it's not fair to point that to this particular issue, but it's a problem with the story overall. So
Yes.
I'm done, Sean. Go ahead, tear it apart, sick 'em.
Knock them off the roof.
Starting with the cover,
We've had that before, Sean.
Yeah, that's not the
You
first
can't
instance.
do that. You
Celestial
can't do- you
Toymaker's not
cannot-
in this.
You can't
No, it doesn't
do that.
matter.
But we've had Cybermen on an issue that didn't have Cybermen in it. We've had Daleks, I
didn't
think,
like it
on an
then
episode.
either.
Well,
Yeah.
no,
You can't
that's not
trust
fair.
covers.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
it's not fair.
You can't trust the covers, period. Any comic book, you can't trust the covers.
I kind of, sort of, liked Grace's intro. Kind of. I liked the fact that she was back working as a doctor and had reestablished herself and was not skittish and weird, and, you know, that she was competent. Because she was the premier heart surgeon in San Francisco in the movie. Yeah, she killed a guy, but that wasn't her fault. He had 2 hearts. Okay? Not her fault. I like the fact that her coworker's talking about this bad relationship breakup, and she's like, "Ouch, I've been there." They're very nicely encapsulating everything that happened in the movie. We'll get a little radar report of, the atomic clock is finally ready to be. Okay,
Yeah, I do like
that's a little
the
scream
name
moment.
drop. Yeah.
And then we get this very strange panel of this Dick Tracy-looking doctor and flat. Everything's drawn in profile in throughout this thing, and her beetle eyes back here in the background because
A little orphan Annie back there.
yeah, there's no mesh of the he's trying to mesh too many different styles. It almost feels like it's not necessarily even. It's very blasé 90s comic book kind of, and not one of the big ones. It's not a Marvel or a DC. It's like a no-name brand comic book. So the doctor comes and he grabs Grace and he's like, "Come with me, come with me," and you know.
It's Gru the Wanderer. Sorry.
We've envisioned this moment for a while. The doctor comes back to Grace and says, "You sure you don't want to come with me?" And she takes him up on the offer. You've got to nail that. And kind of.
No, not even
But
kind
I-
of.
but-
I just don't think they got there.
I don't think so either. I just don't. So then we get this whirlwind tour of, look at all the things I can do. Look at where we can go here. We can go here. And she gets space sick.
I know.
buzzer. You ruined Grace. Grace is a powerful, competent, intelligent, modern woman who should have no problem traveling
Who
in
has
the TARDIS.
died once.
Who has died once and come back. Because the Grace at the end of the movie has had her mind open. She's explored all this stuff. She's gone through all these things. She walks into the TARDIS and is not fazed by the fact that it's bigger on the inside.
Yep.
She's smart enough to handle that. And you neutered her by making her spacek and whiny. So then we land on the planet. We're going to give you a chance to, okay, we'll get your feet. We'll get you catch your breath. Okay. Oh, we're in the middle of BFE. This is the most boring planet ever. It's pasture land, and we've got peasants, and yeah, okay, sure, why not? Didn't care about any of these characters. There was no interaction that really grew the story arc. Maybe I would have cared about the kids had they built Grace up instead of tearing her down during this part. It didn't work. We get more strange profile shots of this guy, because apparently that's the only way that they can draw these people is from the side. Look at my big nose. And, okay, so, everything's perfect. Everything's fine. Everything's fantastic. All Grace needed was a good meal. Oh, by the way, our alien overlords occasionally pick people for ascension, but we never see them again. Well,
we don't question it.
I just step back, but to be fair, let's only pick on the artwork once.
Okay, I'm done picking on it.
Right.
Well, no, I've got one more panel that I really have to point out, and then I'll be done. So, okay, the alien overlords who dress like Elvis. Bad design choice there. Not artwork.
The design choice. I give you that one. Yeah, it's free reign there.
What is with this? I mean, come on.
And the totally lame glasses.
Yes, bad. Okay, so then, we take the kids. Had we gotten any kind of connection with these kids and Grace, I think it would have worked. If Grace had been given the opportunity to be Grace with these kids and interact with them, I think I would have cared that the aliens came and nabbed them.
I would agree.
But we didn't get it. So now she runs off. She's apparently imprinted on them because she's willing to steal a flyer and take off. And initially I had a problem with that until they fixed it with the line, well, I hotwired the TARDIS. So I just go, all right, I'll allow that. So we've got that. We lock up in the cabinet. Grace has a panic attack, nervous breakdown, locked in the cupboard. Everything's done for. I'm doomed. You're horrible. Why did I agree to come on this trip? And it's like, Tegan, shut up.
Yes.
Just
good example.
Not who you are. The aliens, in addition to being apparently weak, are also inept because they locked them in a broom closet. We don't have a cell. All right, put them in there. We get the sonic. We can very easily get out. This is the panel. This one.
The Scooby-Doo panel?
The Scooby-Doo panel. With this, to me, screams Saturday morning cartoon comic.
What's he saying there?
Comic. He's saying run.
Yeah, he should be saying zoinks.
Yeah, that's just it. Look, none of these people are touching the ground at all as they run away from the aliens. This, to me, says Sunday morning comic strip panel more than anything else in this story. And it is wrong for Doctor Who. It is the wrong feel, the wrong tone. I don't care if you're doing a light story. Which, we're stealing children? That's not light. That's an A-bomb. Like you said, it's a huge anvil dropped in the middle of the thing, but it didn't land on the putty cat's head. It's wrong. Okay, so then, why are we taking the children? Well, because we're harvesting their organs to, sustain ourselves. I understand that this is a science fantasy or a fantasy fiction show, not a science fiction show. It's science fantasy, however you want to say.
How could they be compatible?
There's no way that you can take these human people and put these organs in these alien Elvis people and make it work. If you have the technology to do that, you don't need the organs.
Just grow your own.
God, I
didn't think of that when reading.
I was so angry. I almost threw my iPad when I was reading the digital copy. I was so mad over that.
I like the idea or the gravity.
The premise is good.
I like the gravity of the idea so much that I think I overlooked the fact of the compatibility.
And maybe had this been done in another format where we didn't have these visuals, maybe it would have worked. If it had been a Big Finish audio and that was the plot, okay. If it had been, realized differently, designed differently, okay. but I can only go off of what was presented, and these
'Cause it is a
visuals
visu-
and that
it's a visual
story
medium
don't
as well.
match.
Yeah.
And that's something the editors, I'm sorry, Mr. Tipton, you had to put the kibosh on this early and say, no, we can't do that. Those were the two things. I was livid over the science part of it, and I was livid over what they did to Grace. I could not see straight because I've
It's a
met
neutering. It's
Daphne
a neutering of the
Ashbrook,
character.
and she is not this.
Here. Let me put it this
Oh.
way. Had this been a script for a Doctor Who, and this would have been her first approach to come back as Grace, she'd have looked at this script and she'd have said, no, this needs to be changed, and this needs to be changed, and this needs to be changed, because this is not Grace.
Yeah,
She'd have said that.
she'd have said that.
But she has absolutely no say in this. Her character that she created on screen, she has no say in this. And they take this character based on one little film and they completely neuter it. They didn't even get the point of the character in the movie. That's the problem with
And,
this.
and even saying that it's the Grace from the beginning of the movie and not necessarily, I don't even think they got that far. I think they had the word Grace Holloway,
It's
a
shadows.
doctor, and they
It's
went, okay,
shadows.
let's go with it. It's almost like whoever wrote this has never seen Doctor
Let
Who
me
the movie.
address the
That's
idea.
really how far removed it is.
Let me address the idea of Grace being able to use an IDW. I think it partly comes from the fact that IDW said, "To heck with it. We're done with Doctor Who. Let's just do what we want." And I also think it comes to the fact that, well, if they try to sue us, look at how many Universal products we have. We'll be able to pave it over with Universal Entity. Anyway, because they have a lot of Universal products. They have Ghostbusters. They have... there's another Universal there that I thought of the other day.
When
we
you
were
say
discussing.
Universal, you're not meaning the Studio Universal.
Universal Studios
Because
products.
Ghostbusters is Columbia.
Oh, it is Columbia. It is Columbia. Well, that pokes holes in my...
And they have...
There was another one, though.
They have
I
G.I.
thought
Joe
of.
and Transformers, which are Paramount.
Those are Paramount. That I didn't know. But
Star
there was-
Trek.
No, that's Paramount,
Paramount.
as well.
My Little Pony.
Oh,
Teenage Mutant
I
Ninja
can't believe
Turtles.
you just brought up My Little Pony.
Hey, they have that license.
Which
I thought of another.
believe
X-Files.
I thought of another Universal.
that's Fox.
Yeah, I
Ninja
thought of
Turtles,
another-
I think, is
Oh.
probably still Warner Brothers or New Line.
Never mind. That pokes holes in my theory because Ghostbusters is what I was using ultimately. But you're right. That's Columbia.
They have a lot
Sony,
of
actually.
Fox.
Well, yeah,
stuff
Sony
too.
now. Continue
No.
with where you were going with
Yeah,
that, because
no,
I'm curious
no.
to know what it would have been.
I can't remember what my other.
Sorry, I didn't-
Earlier, no, that's fine. Earlier in the week, I was thinking, well, they have at least a few Universal products, so they probably thought we could kind of smooth that over if they tried to litigate on it. But now you're right because
Universal may have owned the TV movie at
right,
one
exactly.
point. Oh, okay,
The
I see where
DVD
you're going
no,
with it.
No, not may have. They
Well,
still,
did. Yeah,
that's,
still have a piece.
That's why there is still a litigation issue right now. That is why Grace cannot be licensed into other media because Universal still has they had to come to an agreement in order to just release the Doctor Who movie under BBC in the United States because the BBC has had a vested interest in the movie and it's been on video and DVD in the UK for many years, but it wasn't until 2 years ago that we actually got it on DVD in the US because there was still the litigation over who owned the entire rights.
I follow
and
where
what
you're trying to
happened
go with
was
that.
is they basically came to an agreement as far as releasing the DVD in the US under the BBC and to entertain distribution because Warner Brothers essentially distributes it here in the United States, the To Entertain stuff and the BBC stuff. Ultimately, what it comes down to is the reason that they still haven't allowed the rights to Big Finish and all those is because Universal still has a vested interest in the character, and BBC can't just willy-nilly say, yes, you have the rights to the Grace Holloway character.
I don't understand why
Yes, Grace
Universal
Holloway
thinks they have
character. Oh, what?
vested rights in it.
Huh?
Why they think there's
Money. They want to get paid, Keith. It all boils down to money. They have vested rights in it
see
because
how they're
they
getting much
they-
money off the character.
Well,
is
they're
what
not.
I'm saying.
But the problem is that they have funded 2/3 of this film, and what they're saying is, if we have the rights to this character, we deserve to have money for it. And so what has happened is, anytime somebody's come to the BBC and said, "Hey, we'd like to do something with Grace," they have said, well, unfortunately, we would owe enough money to Universal that we can't just out and out do that without charging you more money for Grace so that Universal gets their cut of it, is what it boils down to. And that is still in contention for as to who really has the ultimate rights to this. And the BBC can't out and out buy all of those rights from Universal because of the type of entity that they are, being a public broadcasting system in the United Kingdom.
I imagine they'd have to take an honest look at it and say, even if it was a matter of bringing everything in-house, is Grace
it worth it? Yeah, and that's what they do. That's what they look at. So that's why there's still this fine line that they walk.
It's probably easier just to leave
I'm
her buried.
still curious as to why IDW thought that they had adequate approval to use Grace Holloway. I thought it was because they felt that they would have Universal's back when Universal said, well, we didn't give you rights to that character. They said, well, we're in such good standing with you on these other titles. But you're right. I can't think of any Universal titles that could have possibly.
I looked at the catalog. I don't see anything.
And for that matter, Fox has at least a fraction of an interest in it as well.
Oh, they have a lot. They have a lot more Fox stuff.
Which maybe that's what allows them to.
Maybe that's where that allows.
But
that.
Universal has a big chunk of that, and that's why they had to really negotiate that down to releasing that DVD in the United States.
So CSI Universal.
CBS, no, it'd be Paramount.
Not necessarily. Not everything on CBS is
mostly
Paramount. Most stuff on CBS is Paramount, but not everything.
So then you remember the early comics where we got into huge discussions over the shadowy cloaked figure and who it might be based on the tiny little glimpses of who this guy is. I've got a full-blown raging shot of him here. I got nothing.
I got nothing either.
I have no idea.
He's still got a cloaked face a bit, so I think we're still trying to disguise his identity in such a way, but I don't...
He's he's got mechanical legs.
Yeah.
And a vest. He's Marty McFly. He's a cybernized Marty McFly. Marty McFly travels with the Doctor.
I still think it could be Captain Jack, but I think that would be a bold way to go with it.
They haven't been bold in this series at all.
Because realistically, exactly. If you think about it, if you're going to go with cybernetic legs, at some point, Jack just became a head.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I'm going to say.
I think it's Adam.
And it would explain the time...
Vortex manipulator.
Adam. Yeah, because he's got the plug in his head, too.
Hey, he was stranded in whatever year was on the station.
No, he wasn't stranded. They dropped him back home in his own time. Remember? Because his mom came into the room and snapped her fingers and she freaked out because he...
I forgot about that part. I tried to forget most of that.
Yeah, the Doctor dropped him off back in his home.
Yeah, that's right. So no, it couldn't
opened up the thing in his head so his mom would freak out.
That was the only way Adam was still working.
I like it. I like Adam though. That at least brings somebody full circle that would have a reason to seek vengeance on the Doctor.
Yeah,
even though it was
Jack has no reason to seek vengeance. I think, unless he's just pissed that he's immortal.
Yeah,
but he didn't seem to have any ill will against the Doctor that in
by that time.
Utopia and Sound of Drums. I mean, it was once he
was trying to figure it out.
He was, but once the Doctor told him what had happened and was square with him, he was almost like, it is something that is an anomaly. It's not what you. It's not something you wished upon me. You didn't do it to me. It was a result of something that had to be done.
Well, these writers like to ignore other parts of the storyline, so.
As much as
I just don't think it's
as much as I kind of sort of like.
I like Sean's writing of Jack in the short stories he's been doing.
Yeah.
As much as I kind of sort of liked the opening panel, that's kind of where I fell down on the ending. Not the alien ending, because I really got. I'm done with you guys. As soon as you said we're harvesting it for that purpose, done with you. If you'd been harvesting these organs to sell on the black market, to get money to keep your society going, I'd have been fine with that. Mm-hmm. But to make it medical, no, done. But the end, where the guy's monologuing and giving his, I'm the future, I'm this, and you trade me, blah, blah, blah. And the Doctor is like, whatever it is you think I did, let's talk about it. That, to me, was very Eighth Doctor. That one line.
Very Eighth Doctor, yeah.
Almost redeemed the rest of the... but
nothing can redeem the story, but that was a nice little nugget.
Yeah.
I would give you that, yes.
Yeah, so there was... And that was it. And then it was over. And it was... I don't know. Maybe it's the way Brenda kind of felt about the TV movie, because it was 90 minutes of, and then it was gone, and this was this one bam, and then it was gone, and I got nothing. I flipped through this and flipped through it, and I read it 3 times because I read it and I got mad and I put it down. Like, I had finished it and I walked away from it, and then I came back to it and thought, maybe I missed something. Maybe I was not in the right frame of mind.
You're hoping to look for something. Well,
I went back and reread it.
This is why you go back to it. In fact, I went back to it a second time but didn't get all the way through it. The reason you go back to it is because it's the Eighth Doctor and it's Grace.
Yeah.
And you think, oh my gosh, those are 2 characters that I absolutely love, and
I
want to love another story of them together. And then
it could not possibly have been as bad as I made it out that first time.
Yeah.
And as soon as I started reading it, and Grace got
I'm glad you made it 3 times, because I made it 1.5. I mean, I really, once I started reading Grace's story again, I went, this is not my Grace.
Yeah, it isn't. It's not even my Eighth Doctor, really.
No, it's not.
There are moments, but
there's moments. But we went through the Divergent universe, so I can kind of forgive some of the Eighth Doctor.
Well, but that's the thing, is dealing with
the Eighth Doctor's been an enigma since we went through the
that's just it. Chris
Divergent
summed it up
universe.
best when she said, the Eighth Doctor, more than any of them, personifies all of them.
The Doctors.
And that is the most true statement you can make about the Eighth Doctor, is that he is literally, because he has those moments of whimsy and silly. He's got those self-deprecating moments. He's got those dry,
really
wry humors. He's got the dark moments.
Dark moments.
He encapsulates all of them so well, and that is ultimately the biggest frustration, is that we didn't get more of it to explore what could have been. That's ultimately the saddest part of it.
Are you pulling on the tablecloth?
I don't know.
Stop it. You're pulling on my computer too.
Oh, was I? I'm sorry. To me, I was in my own little world going, hey, the microphone's coming towards me. I didn't think about everything else coming towards me too.
Cut him off.
Yeah. I'm going to go have another drink.
Now he needed to cut me off because I was apparently boring him with my trying.
Well, I don't know. At some point, you and I just keep reiterating the same thing, so maybe we should move on to the retrospective.
I'm done talking about the comic book. So I'm sorry for those of you that enjoyed it.
Sorry, Chrissy.
Yeah.
I guess I just didn't have the vitriol you guys did about it.
Mr. Hammond, I've decided not to endorse your park. That'd be a fun Flicks with Friends.
Oh.
Put it on the schedule. Put it on the list.
On the list.
On the list.
Yeah. Well, how about the retrospective?
As you
both abandoned me at the table now. I honestly...
Well, you start, Keith.
I don't know how... We've discussed the movie ad nauseum. We've discussed all these stories. I feel like we've done... Our entire show is a retrospective of the Eighth Doctor.
That's just it. It's tough to do the Eighth Doctor when we shoehorn ourselves into only doing the movie, because we have talked about the movie ad nauseum. You're exactly right.
Go listen to the episode where we discussed the movie of way back when.
And it's really difficult.
We've always discussed our love of Paul McGann and the Eighth Doctor, even in audios we haven't necessarily enjoyed.
And it's really difficult not to taint our discussions with the fact that we know a lot more about the Eighth Doctor based on the books we've read, based on the audios that we've listened to. And I don't think Paul McGann ever steps away from the intent of the Eighth Doctor and the Doctor that he developed in the films when we listen to the audios. Even when we have these stories that have this really kind of dark centering around the Doctor, or as we talked about, the Doctor kind of encompassing all of the different incarnations, the Eighth Doctor still has this core that we love and we see every time. Unfortunately, we have told ourselves and we've told our listeners that we're not going to talk about the extended universe stuff, because that wouldn't be fair, because we have not done that, I should say, with any of the other Doctors. And so we have to really kind of just focus on the movie.
I disagree.
Elaborate.
We're discussing the Eighth Doctor's era. And with all of the classic Doctors that had come before, their era was television, because that's what was available. And it wasn't until much later that they started producing standalone novels and adventures that weren't directly, it wasn't a novelization of the episode. It was a Third Doctor adventure or a Fourth Doctor adventure.
7, they continued with the novels, and we didn't touch on any of those.
7 did, but we still had enough episodes that we kind of covered
Okay.
that.
But I don't think that's fair, because when we talked about
the era
talked about the Sixth Doctor, we specifically stayed away from Big Finish audios. We did make a quick mention that we've come to love the Sixth Doctor based on the audios, but that's the only thing that we did from the audios. If we were allowed to include the audios in the Sixth Doctor discussion, I would have painted a much happier, broader picture of the Sixth Doctor. But we did not do that, because there was only season and a half, or technically 2 seasons, that we dealt with of the Sixth Doctor. And I don't think it's fair to say, okay, now we're going to expand Paul McGann's era into the Big Finish audios and the novels, because that's not fair to any of the other Doctors that I was forced to review based on what we saw on television. I'm sorry, but Sean, you're right.
I agree.
The Eighth Doctor is wonderful based on the fact that he has some great novels, and Paul McGann has been able to expand the character in audio.
Right,
but
and you're right
it's
that
not
a lot
fair
of his
to
era
anybody
took
else.
place off camera.
That's the key, though.
But
is the Big Finish,
we've limited all of our other discussions.
Right. Well, but the Big Finish audios featuring the Sixth Doctor came later, came after his era. You see what I'm saying? He had his time. I'm not saying that it was fair. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm saying that the Sixth Doctor had his.
I think that's
television
absolutely
time.
false, because
And
the
there
Big
wasn't
Finish
anything
audios
else that
didn't
was
start
being
until
done.
early 2000. That was 4 years after Paul McGann had been in the film. It's after everybody's era. You can't count that. You can't say that that's part of Paul's era, because it came after the film. There were 4 or 5 years of difference in the time that was coming. And Paul was only basically... He wasn't even in the... Well, he was in Sirens of Time, wasn't he? Was he one of the segments?
No,
he wasn't in Sirens of Time.
So the other 3 Doctors are the first ones that kick off the Big Finish audio, and he doesn't come along until about 6 episodes into Big Finish either.
But if you look
that does not count, Sean. I think if we're going to be fair to the 8th Doctor, we have to just focus on the film.
I agree that we're not going to talk about it. I'm not saying that I'm going to delve into my Big Finish discussion now. I'm saying that if you look at it chronologically, that we go 4th Doctor, 5th Doctor, 6th Doctor, his era ends, 7th Doctor starts, and it's not until after the show ends that we start seeing the Virgin New Adventures to pick up that torch and continue on. So yes, that technically is still 7th Doctor's era. We
didn't use it.
We didn't use it, but we could have. Is my argument.
Yeah.
So now we get to the movie.
The
7th Doctor's era ends. He's in the movie. He regenerates. That's the end of Sylvester McCoy's time, and Paul McGann picks up the torch and goes on. And they change all of the comic strips and all of the novels that come out and everything to match now this guy. And he is
which
there
we haven't read any of those, except for me, who I've read 2.
He's there through all of that. And then when we start hearing rumblings with things like Scream of the Shalka and some of the stuff that maybe this is coming, and then we officially get the relaunch in 2005, or the new Who starts. That then kicks off Chris Eccleston's. But in my mind, chronologically, anything that's set between Doctor Who the movie and the relaunch is Paul McGann's era. That's how I choose to look at it.
Okay, I agree with the statement that you said, but for argument of what we're discussing now, we are only using televised episodes. We weren't allowed to use, whether it was part of his era or not. I think retroactively, the Sixth Doctor stories do retroactively become part of his era.
No, I agree. I agree. For purposes of that they do retroactive.
That's the Ninth Doctor era. But for the sake of argument in this retrospective, you could only use the television movie.
It's the greatest thing ever.
I've read 2.25 of the Eighth Doctor novels so far, and I'm not going to use those as part of my discussion of the Eighth Doctor era, because it's not fair, because we're using the televised stories.
Okay.
I think that the televised and the novels, or the audios and the novels, have expanded on Paul McGann and made him even more wonderful than the movie did in its own. But that's all I can say about it, because that's what I said about the Sixth Doctor, was the fact that the audios made the Sixth Doctor, it brought all of his televised stuff to new light when I heard him later on the Big Finish stuff. I can't say that for Paul McGann, and here's the reason I can't say that, because I don't think Paul McGann ever missed a beat. I don't think he changes the way that he does the Eighth Doctor from the movie to the stories that he does. Now, does the character evolve? Yes, the character becomes darker, the character changes, the character goes through this kind of roller coaster of stories and emotions, but he's still on the core the Eighth Doctor. The most wonderful thing about the Eighth Doctor is...
It's a bigger paintbrush.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bigger paintbrush, but that's it. You're absolutely right. The nice thing about the fact is that Paul McGann steps into the role of the Doctor and doesn't lose any of the 30-some years that came before it. It's still the Doctor. When you look at him, it could have easily, because the movie is so Americanized, the Doctor could have came in and been very American. But Paul McGann grounded. That was the one thing that the movie does right, is it grounds the Doctor in such a sense, despite the fact that we tamper with the half-human aspect of the Doctor, that we tamper with the fact that there's a romantic element to the Doctor, the fact that he's not asexual anymore, and because everybody assumes he's asexual because there is no romantic interludes in the canon to come before. Despite those two things, he still seems and feels like the Doctor from the classic series. He really has that British character to him. He really has all of the essential Doctor character to him, that it doesn't change at all. Well, and that's what I think Paul McGann has done right with the Doctor, even beyond the movie.
It's like when they talked about it on the one of the few things they did right on the revisited special, when they mentioned the gun, and that he's going to pickpocket the cop's gun and then turn around and threaten himself.
And not others.
And that, for anybody who says, well, they Americanized it, an Americanized version of Doctor Who would have been turning the tables and threatening the cop. I mean, that's kind of...
An Americanized version of the character.
Yes, and they didn't
because
do
the
that.
movie is very American. You have to admit that. You can't come down on the side of... It is gangland ideals, which is not prevalent in the UK. It's not something that...
But that's
is,
setting.
Because the story is set in San Francisco. I agree that it's setting.
We've had other episodes of Doctor Who set in America that does not feel like the movie.
Okay, here let me point this out. The Doctor riding a motorcycle with his companion on the back. Now, while that has been redone now in the new series, at the time that was very American. I would not have seen any Doctor prior to that riding a motorcycle.
Pertwee rode a three-wheeler with Joe on the back.
I don't know. I'll give you that one a little bit.
Sylvester Moore rode a motorcycle and Delta and the Bannerman.
But it wasn't a motorcycle. It was a... Well, no, I guess it was a motorcycle. I was about to say it was a... Okay, I'll give you that one.
That's the thing. It's the perception that it's Americanized. Yeah. Everybody seems to think that it's Americanized. And because the story's set...
A lot of that is setting, I would agree.
Because the story's set in America, it's easy to paint with that broad paintbrush that, well, all of it's Americanized because now he's kissing his companion and now they've got, this... No, you break it down at its core, and Doctor Who, the movie, is still... I firmly believe it's still very British. Now, I will allow that maybe it's...
What isn't like the accents?
Well, here's the thing.
Maybe it's the American perception of what British television is like.
Well, I think that's probably...
And maybe that's
probably the most of it. But it goes back to you and I argue... I think you argue on the side of me, and I think you do too. The side of how the Master... Everybody complains of how the Master is portrayed so differently. And we always defend the Master's portrayal based on the fact that he has inhabited an American's body.
Yeah.
We always say that, it was an American ambulance driver. So that's going to be the voice that comes out of that face. It's going to be the accent that comes out of that face. It's going to be the actions that he takes in such a sense that he's still trying to portray himself as Bruce the ambulance driver. He's trying to pull the wool over people's eyes so that he can get what he needs. It's not till later in the TARDIS when he becomes
to me, the Roger Delgado master, where he's dressing for the occasion, he has that flair, that flamboyance, that menace that Roger Delgado
or the
brought to
Anthony
the. Well, I'm sorry, Anthony.
Okay.
Ainley.
I thought that's where you were going.
I was confusing the two, but the master that Anthony Ainley was, that he portrayed, that comes across once we get into the TARDIS and we're starting to actually, come to the climax of the story. That is very master-like, using the dress, the very Time Lordian outfit that he has on, having that flair and that flamboyance. That is very master to me. So people say, he just wasn't master-like. He just didn't play, because he was playing a part in order to make it look like he was somebody else until he was able to execute his plans, and then it was very master-like.
It would be like saying in all those scenes where the master is pretending to be Bob Smith, and
or in Traken where he's pretending to be the.
Shush.
Spoilers.
Oh, sorry. I think he's already figured all of that out by now. But yeah, exactly. Where he's
it would be like basing one of those
we
stories
watched
on
where
that.
he was the weird alien thing, Time Flight, where he's the weird alien thing. And
He's actually got a rubber mask.
He's an entirely different character than the Master. It's because he's having to portray that persona.
Or when he's, the scientific, the Wutan, the scientific, there's so many examples.
Or the King's Demons, where he's pretending to be the guy on the inside of the court. I mean, he's not being the Master at that point. It's not until it's revealed that he's the Master that he becomes the Master, and that's the same thing with the movie.
That falls right in line with
that's
what
really
Doctor Who
not
the movie
explaining.
presents us. So.
That's really defending Doctor Who the movie, and not necessarily the character of the Doctor, which we should be doing now. But
Well, but I go back to the.
This just falls down on the fact that we have to defend the movie every time we talk about it.
Even though I don't know who we're defending it to.
Anybody who will listen.
Nobody comes to us with these points that you guys keep bringing up.
Still
and complaining about.
Okay, no.
Nobody's bringing it to us.
I think.
Who was the last person
I think one of the things we're trying to do is, the last person that brought it up was Brenda said that it feels very American, and I have always felt that it feels very American. But Sean's got a good point, is that it's set in America. So that's part of the reason that it feels very American, because our characters are American, even though it was shot in British Columbia, Canada. Our characters are very American. Our setting is very American, but the Doctor never really deviates from being that very British central character that we grew to love in the classic series.
I think saying this feels American is like saying Evolution of the Daleks and Daleks Take Manhattan feel American.
But they don't. I think that's the problem.
I don't think tonally it feels that much different either.
It's hard to defend the movie when you bring an example up like that, because Evolution of the Daleks and Daleks in Manhattan.
That's because it's period and it's very poor accents.
That's just it. They feel British.
That's because
despite the fact that we have Americans in there, we even have American actors in there. Panaka's American. He's
is he?
Yeah, he's not British.
That. Okay, well, there's one.
Tallulah's American.
She has a horrible.
No, I'm kidding. She's a British actress.
That's why
Andrew Garfield, according to Sean, is American.
They're used to having horrible American accents, and they don't know how to handle actual American accents.
I'm going to disagree with you there, because they don't.
You don't disagree with everything.
No.
Glenn hates everything.
Glenn hates everything and doesn't agree with anyone.
Let me explain. They don't have horrible American accents. What they do...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Listen, they default to caricature accents. We're in Brooklyn, so we're going to do the really heavy Brooklyn accent.
Wait, in the movie?
In the TV series. That's why I'm saying these still feel British, even though we have American accents.
That's what I'm saying. We actually have American actors, so they're not used to having actual accents.
Oh, I see where you're coming from. I thought you were referring to the Dalek episodes.
No, I was referring to the movie.
It would be like saying that.
No, I will never defend the accents of American accents and any of the other British. Or any of the Doctor Who.
But that's what
because they default to the
caricatures. Okay,
yes, that's what I'm saying.
It would be like saying that.
Then we're arguing the same point. I'm sorry.
It's like the guy from Angels Take Manhattan was actually American. So he actually had an authentic accent.
American, and he had an authentic American.
But nobody complained about it.
And
Impossible
we sound like
Astronaut, Day
we're
of the Moon.
faulting people saying that
Oh,
British
yeah,
people
no,
can't do American accents. They can, but it seems like
Some can very well.
we always seem to
It's just
default
the
to the
actors in
stereotypes.
Doctor
We
Who
always
don't
seem
always.
to right. We always seem to default to the Southern accents, or we always seem to default to the Brooklyn accents
Yes.
because those are easier ones to peg. Because if you're going to go extreme on an American accent, those are the ones to do because you can really hear those when you do the Midwest or the monotone accent, which has no accent to it at all. It's probably harder for a British person to hit.
It would be like saying that Impossible Astronaut, Day of the Moon feel American.
Because
They feel more American than the rest of the episodes in that series.
To me, they don't.
I don't think they do either.
See,
but,
that's why I'm saying is that's why Doctor Who the movie feels more American, because in comparison to all the things we've done in America, they still feel British to me. They still feel like a British
I think
take.
this still feels British.
Even the well, and the worst example is in The Sound of Drums and The Last of the Time Lords, where we have the American president, and we don't quite get the politics of America right, because we would not send our president pro tem
that's true.
to negotiate with the prime minister in another country. You just don't do that. And so we don't get the politics right, so suddenly that feels very foreign or British to us.
I don't know. Maybe
Maybe I'm straying way off.
I think it's just one of those.
I'll have more scotch.
Maybe it's just lost in translation. Is what it is. But
Well, that could be it. Yeah.
I don't see it. But again, maybe it's because I'm American and not British. Maybe if I was British, I would have a huge problem with it, and I don't. I just don't see it. But,
If we were allowed, I'm not trying to backpedal here, but if we were allowed to accept the books and the audio series as part of the McGann era, I still fall back on the fact that because McGann never loses step with his Eighth Doctor, the Eighth Doctor in the TV series is still the best personification of the Eighth Doctor.
I would agree with that.
Because he does not stray from the core character that he creates in the movie itself. And so I think that's why the movie still remains the best example of the Eighth Doctor's era, because it's not like Paul ever changes directions. It's not like the writers even really kind of stray from that core character that's in the movie. Now, they try different approaches. I think the writers try to evolve the Eighth Doctor, but Paul always manages to, at least in the audio series, because he has nothing to do with the books. And we haven't delved much into the books, but he never strays from that core character that he created in Doctor Who the movie. And I think that's why it's fortunately easy to say. I mean, it's really easy to say because it's the only TV representation we have is the movie. But it's easy to say and come down on the side that really is the best example of the Eighth Doctor.
The only thing
he
you can
doesn't
say
change
against that in regards to Doctor Who the movie is that he spends the first 20 or 30 minutes of it not being the Eighth Doctor because he's lost. He doesn't know who he is. But that's post-regeneration. Every regeneration story has that 20 or 30-minute span where some of them longer, where we're not quite sure who this guy is yet.
But quite frankly, even when he realizes who he is and he starts to remember who he is, he still hasn't changed from that character that walked out of that morgue. He really has still that same personality. It's like he's filling in the gaps in his memory, but he still has that same, I don't know,
sense of wonder.
That's it. That's. Oh, thank you. That's exactly what it is. It's that wide eyes.
Perfectly.
It's that wide eyes sense of wonder. Thank you, Keith.
And that's
it exactly.
Anytime they write him, and there were several times in the comic that they hit that sense of wonder right, and that's when it feels like the Eighth Doctor.
Yeah, you just hit the nail on the head. It's that wide-eyed sense of wonder is what it is.
It's one of the things Trading Future is slightly missing.
That's what?
One of the things Trading Futures is slightly missing.
Oh, is that right? Is that the one you're reading?
Yeah. It's an enjoyable story so far, but it doesn't feel like the Eighth Doctor.
The problem with the one I'm reading now is we're dealing a lot with Angie. We're not dealing with anything with the Doctor yet. Much of the Doctor.
I've had some references to yours.
You've
in
had
my
some
book.
references to Angie?
No, to Earthworld.
Earthworld? Oh, no kidding.
I didn't realize it picking it
Who
up.
are your companions? Sorry,
Angie
we're getting
and
ahead of
Fritz.
ourselves. Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. Sorry. we're getting way off base.
I'm getting lots of references to stuff I have no idea what
And
they're
we're going to
talking
talk about this next week.
Yeah.
Well, and this is only Angie's second story, and I'm already getting references to stuff that I'm shocked that they picked this book as the 8th Doctor's book in this line of 11 Doctor books to deal with. And Sean is yawning, so let's continue our discussion.
I'm sorry, no.
The 8th Doctor. Well,
let's wrap it up.
we're almost 4
should
hours
probably
in, and I'm going to be editing a lot of this tomorrow. So. What else can we say? I mean,
I think we've
It's
gushed
really-
enough about the 8th Doctor.
it's really
on the
tough to
show.
It is.
do this show with just the 8th Doctor, but I think, to be fair to all of the other Doctors we've done before, we can't jump
No,
into it.
I'm not disagreeing with you there.
And that's knowing, and that's one of the things I didn't fault the Doctor Who Revisited it for, because they only have so much you can say about a TV movie.
Yeah, but if you get Paul in
If
there
you had Paul,
and Peter Segal,
you could have
could
filled
lint
it
some
out.
more.
You could have filled it out. Yes, exactly.
Well, and here's an interesting flip to that argument: is that do we default to the Doctor Who the movie being the end all be all of Paul McGann's 8th Doctor because everything that has come after matches with what he's done, or is it because being that we had this, there was no ongoing series, there was no ongoing pressure to, you have to get this right, you have to have all the dialogue here, because when this explosion goes off, we can't reset, which we've heard that story so often repeated in these other Doctors, stories, the time crunch of doing a series. It was filmed at a more leisurely place because it was a movie style, shoot, and it had movie conventions to it, even if it wasn't.
Right.
It had more money behind it. It had all this kind of stuff. Is it maybe that he was able to devote a little more time into discovering who this Doctor is and how he was going to play him, because he didn't have as much to deal with on the other end? And so the absolute best of everything he could have put into it is on display. As opposed to this week I had a cold. I was a little off.
I think that's a good argument.
That's a good argument, but on the flip side of that, how many times have we looked at a era of the Doctor and we've picked a story earlier on in that Doctor's era that we felt was more
Most
of the representative?
Yeah.
And you can't do that with Paul because there's only one, but in your argument, if you look at it and we said, well, this was based on this, and we've had 3 years, on average, 3 years to kind of explore that character, how many times have we said earlier on in their series that we felt that was kind of the... You see what I'm saying?
More often than not.
Yeah, exactly. So, Paul's fortunate in the fact that he had probably a bigger frame around his one body of work to explore his Doctor, as opposed to, probably shooting a story in 1 week.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, we have looked at one saying that early on in their career or early on in their era, we thought that was a better representation than later in the era. Whereas Paul, even if he had that time to kind of expand that character, it's apples to oranges there, in my opinion. Yes? No?
Yeah, I can see that.
I can see both sides of the
I can see both.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting what if
Dynamic, yeah.
I don't disagree with anything that you put forth as far as why we can't do that, and that realistically, even if we did include Big Finish and books and other things, I'd probably still default to Doctor Who the movie as this is my 8th Doctor.
I think I would too.
Really, quite honestly. You look back
really
on all
is the
of
best
the
representation.
and I'm even a
the
leg up on
character.
you guys, because there are other in that 8th Doctor range that you guys haven't heard yet, and I've heard all those, and I'd probably still default to Doctor Who the movie.
That's interesting to hear you say that, because
As much as I love them.
because early on, before we get to Zagreus, if we could open it up, I'm going against what I was arguing earlier, but if we could open it up, I won't pinpoint an exact one. But prior to Zagreus, there are some that I would say would probably be more representative than the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's hard to hammer that down because of the fact that he hasn't changed as a core character up until Zagreus. And even I talk about how much he evolved and changed and the different phases of the Doctor we got in the Divergent universe. But he really, on the core, and then coming out of all of that, still remains the same Doctor that we got in the movie. So maybe I'm going to backpedal a little bit here now and say, yeah, maybe that is the best representation, because it's also more along the lines that when you listen to these audios, you still visualize that same character, but again, this is the best representation we have because we're not only hearing the Doctor, but we're seeing the Doctor as well. Right. So, I guess that comes down on the fact that, yeah, you're getting best of both worlds there. Whereas, because of what came forth in the movie, I'm able to visualize some of the stuff in the Big Finish audio as well. So, no, I'm gonna go all the way back and say I think you're right. I think I would come down on the movie being the best representation. Because that is my blueprint for anything that I listen to or read in the books later on as well. That's a good point.
And I think that was
that's why we had.
No, I think you're right. I think that everybody that writes for this new Doctor has one thing to hang their.
If they write a good story,
has one thing to write their blueprint on, or to hang their blueprint on, and that is the movie.
And that's why we were so much not fans of this particular issue of the comic, because the blueprint for Grace
is in the movie,
is there,
it's not
but
matched.
You didn't use it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good.
There's that.
What's next on the schedule, song?
Well, I'll be gone.
What? You're leaving us?
I'm leaving.
You're leaving us for the first time in 143 episodes?
Yes. Don't think I'm not having separation anxiety. For Friday.
Oh, whatever. You're going to be in Hawaii, sunning yourself on a beach, eating
and I will be
roasted pig at a luau.
Yeah, there will be a part of me that is figuring out the time differential, trying to figure out if I can boot up Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways and join in for Friday night.
Do it. You know why? Because you're like 4 time zones out. No, 5.
It's 5 hours difference.
5
It'd be earlier for him, though. It wouldn't be as late.
Yeah, but he's going to be in the middle of doing something. He's in freaking Hawaii.
Yeah, the sun will be up. So that's the catch.
What's 5 hours? 7 o'clock here. So you'll be doing something.
More than likely. Yeah. But
please, if you have an opportunity to join us, don't let me discourage you. But I think you will probably be doing other things. I just picture you at some luau watching the fire dancers and the hula girls and roasting the pig and having the dinner and all of that stuff. I hope
I'm gonna take an Instagram photo of the roast pig and go, hey, look, it's a Dalek pig guard.
I know you're going there to visit your brother, but are you going to do some of the touristy trips?
Oh yeah. We're going to do it. And the interesting thing is, I've never been to Maui. So,
where were you born?
I was born in Honolulu. So I've been back to Honolulu and back to Oahu, and then I've also been to Kauai.
Oh, you've been back several times then.
Well, no, I've only been back once.
But when you went back,
islands.
You went to different islands.
Yeah, because usually you land in Honolulu because it's got the big airport, and then
biggest island.
Puddle jump over. No, the big island is the big one.
Hawaii is the biggest island.
Yes.
Okay.
Honolulu's on Oahu.
Yeah, I forgot about that. No. But there's one island that is actually called Hawaii, right?
Yeah, the Big Island.
He just called it the Big Island.
It's
right. I got you.
That's what the island is called.
I'm not a native.
The Big Island.
I'm not a native. I'm sorry. I wasn't born in Hawaii. Forgive me. I was born in freaking Kansas.
I've never been to the Big Island, but I understand there are parts of the Big Island that look like Kansas because it's so big you can't tell that you're on an island and it's very grassland. They have cattle and the whole bit. You can't tell that it's.
Okay, when
are you going to do a Lost tour?
No. I'm not going to that island.
Yeah, don't do it.
I don't know which island they
filmed. That was filmed on Kauai. Kauai does a lot of filming. Kauai does Jurassic Park was filmed in Kauai. Lost.
By the way,
I bet there were some field shots from Lost.
I was discussing the other night with somebody at work about television series, and I was pushing him to watch Arrested Development, and he was arguing the fact that sometimes he's pushed to watch things and then he watches them and he doesn't enjoy them as much as somebody wants them to enjoy them. And I said, I can understand that because I was pushed to watch Lost.
and I enjoyed the ride, and I loved the series despite its downfalls through most of the series, all the way up until the end. And it was one of those series that the very last episode ruined the entire series for me. So that was sorry.
There's no ending to that. There's no, and he agreed with me and said, Keith made me watch I was so angry.
It dawned on me the other night because I'm still even when Keith is like a champion for Lost, I still fall down on the I enjoyed this, but it wasn't until the other night that I realized that the ending of the Lost series ruined the entire series for me, and that's where you fall down on it, I think.
We funny story. James and I were working tonight and discussed Lost at work, and because he'd made the comment about heroes and season 1 being that, and I said, it's kind of like Lost. Here's another example of television letting me down. And he goes, "What is?" "Oh yeah." And he looked over. "What is it?" "Oh yeah."
I was not like
You
that.
are so in the minority.
Apparently.
Yeah.
No, he's not, because if you get online, you'll find a lot of people that really liked that last episode.
And a lot of people that really like the show.
Anyway, so we're not going to the Big Island. We're not going to Oahu. We're not going to Kauai. We're going to Maui, which is the middle one. If you're counting, it's the second one in.
He was doing this. The middle.
The middle one. It's shaped like a woman. It is. If you look at Maui, the island has the coastal outline looks like a woman. I kid you not. Pull it up. Anyway,
I've been drinking. Is he serious?
I think he's serious.
It's serious.
All right.
You'll Google it.
I'll believe anything now.
Oh well, in that case,
We should get to the end of this show because I'm becoming incoherent.
I have a set deal. I'm going to put it in your ear and make
What do
you
you
do my
mean
bidding.
becoming?
Huh? What do you mean becoming is what you said? Thanks,
Just
Keith.
kidding.
Anyway, so while I am there, you guys will be doing Bad Wolf and Parting of the Ways, which is our 9th Doctor story for Friday Night Who this week.
Aren't you glad that we switched? You get to join us, actually, for Scream of the Shotgun.
No, he still won't be back.
Oh, you won't be back
No,
by
I won't
then?
be back by
Oh.
We're going to be recording late the week after.
Sorry, Sean.
So I'll miss out on that too. And one of you is going to buy Scream of the Shulker, right? You've got that
I'll
figured out.
buy it.
You
Yeah.
were going to.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
I guess I have to come here to watch it, don't I?
Yeah.
the following week we'll be doing Scream of the
We
Shulker.
can check
So
with Mel.
That's true.
She might.
She might want to watch it.
I'm sure she'd like to watch it. I know Drew would.
No, we're doing it at Sean's house.
I'll put you guys in contact with him and figure that out. But
He knows what time to show up.
Yeah,
that-
I was going to say, I don't need to talk to him. He knows where and what time.
You just need to let him know it's actually going to happen.
the show next week will be you guys discussing your book reviews. I might, I won't Skype in, but I might send you an audio file with a book review because I'll have
What are you doing?
a 10-hour flight. So,
What book are you reading?
Endgame by Terrence Dix.
Oh.
Depends on how my homework
Who's
goes.
that? Which doctor?
8th Doctor.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
All right.
So I might squeeze one in for you.
Endgame was almost one of the ones I picked.
Really?
Yep. And I went with the more accessible one so that other people could
Thanks.
actually read it.
Great, thanks. I've only
Well, it's
kind
not
of
your
sort of
fault,
I've only kind of sort of
But you
started
did
it
pick
so
more
far.
of the
But,
obscure one.
I picked up the one I
He
had
picked the
on
one
the
he
show.
had.
yeah. But so there's that, and then the following week we will be recording late that week because they'll be kind enough to wait till I get back, and I'm hoping that it won't be too late. I'd like to record Monday, but we get in Monday, so I don't know how.
We're going to record Tuesday.
Tuesday.
I don't know how jet
I
lagged,
think
exhausted
Tuesday's
I'll be, but
Every time he goes on vacation, he says, "Yeah, we can record the day I get back." No, never happens.
What are we reviewing today?
I've never gone on vacation and made you late, have I?
Yeah.
What are we
Galley,
reviewing that
Other
week?
instances.
The week that I get back,
Yeah.
I don't know that it's on the schedule yet. I probably ought to do that.
It is.
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is
really?
because we were kind of waiting for the 9th Doctor schedule to
Oh, that's right.
pan
that's
out,
right.
and I don't think we've got anything
Well,
up
at
yet.
the very least, we can do what? I really don't know.
The Revisited will air the
Will
end
it
of
air by then?
September,
Yeah, but that's
but that'll be
That
really
won't
close.
that
I don't
won't
think
have
we'll.
been there
I don't
by
think
the
we'll
time
have that.
we do that.
No, because
So
We really don't have anything on the schedule. for that.
the IDW comics should be out by then too.
Yeah, that will
so
definitely be out.
we'll figure it out. We'll put something together.
Well, and I think next week I think this week the
I think
audio
the audio's
came
already out.
Yeah.
So I've seen
Yeah.
a couple reviews
Yeah.
for it.
Okay. So yeah, we'll have.
So we'll do
have,
the audio and the comic most likely.
we'll have something.
You have
That's kind of
10-hour
funny that
flight.
we don't have any idea what's on the schedule.
I have no idea what's on the schedule.
All right,
for that
well,
week, so.
all right. That's going to do it for this week. Until next week when we have a schedule, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Oh, we won't have a schedule next week because you'll be gone.
I can do
Post
that.
it,
Oh, yeah.
at least.
Post it so
or
we
send
can
it
at
to
least
us.
announce what it is. You realize I'm the editor. He's the keeper of the feedback. You're really kind of the heart and soul of this operation.
You're really
here.
the organizer.
So what you're saying is that next week is going to be totally devoid of any entertainment value.
We're gonna that, and the fact that we're gonna come and we're gonna do book reviews, and then we're gonna go. Do you know what's going on next week? No. Do you know what's going on next week? Sean will be back.
Posting
Oh,
things.
good.
Sean, send some audio feedback. Hi, guys, it's me. Here's what you're doing next week.
If you want to know what's going on, divert to the.
I'll just send you an audio. I'll send you a massive audio file, and it'll have witty one-liners, asides, and things that don't make any sense that you can just queue up at a moment's notice and throw into the show. Like
And
I'm
what's on the
actually
schedule
sitting
next
here, and I'll do a
So it'll be like you were never gone.
and then I'll do here's the schedule for next week, and
Okay.
I'll just record all that. Please excuse the fact that
Are
we
you
recorded
saying you're
we
the
pre-recorded
funniest
this.
sides of this? Are you saying that Keith and I are not funny?
No, but I think
Are you saying that we can't carry a show
Well, it hasn't been-
humorously?
it hasn't been proven yet. But
I don't know. I thought Keith's Open last week was pretty dang fun. And I'm excited for his song next week, his feedback song next
God, I
week.
gotta figure something out.
I'm not going to comment on the
Realize
fact
we've
that
gone
I
4
wrote his
hours.
open.
Yeah.
I'm going to be
Sean,
editing this thing.
but-
Well, I made
You delivered it phenomenally.
and I added to it to make the.
You totally
the
added
table
to it
crack
because
up.
we
Yes.
did not
Yes.
expect the oops.
The oops was
All right.
priceless, but I did write his open.
Cheers.
The oops was not planned.
I'm just saying that.
I'm trying to close this show. We've already said our names. Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
Here we go. You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.